Political Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Mean of Revolution, and we got to get into how the gang leaders in Chicago have come out for Trump, making powerful statements on the streets that they know the Democrats have been harming our community and keeping the crime and the poverty going on. This is really a beautiful thing. So let's be sure to get right into this powerful message that took place, salute, in Chicago. And when I seen this, brother, I said, I got to bring this to my people because it lets the boule know they don't have the grasp that they used to have on our communities.
Yes, sir. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Chicago Conservative. And today we are in Englewood, Chicago with the Trump rally, guys. You see, we got the sign out here. We got the guys out here with their
Englewood, Chicago. Y'all know that's a tough area.
Opinions on why they out here supporting Donald Trump. Is it recording? Oh, okay.
Now, when I first seen the video and I heard the brother say, salute family, we in Englewood, Chicago, I said, oh, shoot, them boys out there in Englewood, I know it's rough around there. And they doing their Trump thing. And then I seen them interview Durk. That brother right there is a made man in the disciple family with Hoover and them was there in the beginning. He's still there standing. I was shocked because it's not about exactly what he's saying. It's that it's him saying it. That's a very powerful message to the youth in the community that believe in him and believe in his message. You see, it's okay to come out and let the Democrats know how you feel about them and then to come out and push your Trump agenda. So I had to bring this to the platform because this ain't just anybody talking about Trump.
And what's your name, sir?
My name Durk.
Durk, man. And tell me why you supporting Donald Trump out here today in Englewood, Chicago.
Because of what he been doing for our peoples of color. He been trying to help us. Ain't nobody else helped us. Kamala Harris, all they ever did, the Democrat Party, was make laws to lock us up. They ain't tried to pay our bills or feed us. They for the rich. They not for the poor. They said that on the news just the other day. You know, that they...
Nah, like I say, he might not have the position down pat like I do. If they stick a camera in my face, I can just go off and recite it. But that's not the point. It's the point that this brother is a made man in Chicago. His word matter. And he's standing up and saying, hey, we voting for Trump because the Democrats have done this, that, and the third. That's a powerful thing that now we can have this in our communities and we can challenge the boule everywhere.
At us as being trashed and looked at all the other people that had jobs and everything as Americans. What about us?
Right.
You know, that ain't the only America that's here. We here, even though we in poor neighborhoods, you know.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Kamala Harris saying she's black?
Bro, I'm not going to get into the skin tone, but she can be whatever she want to be. You know what I'm saying? To me, black represents something that's dead. Now, if she says she's a woman of color, then I can go for that. But something black, that's dead. Go in the dictionary. That represents death. But she can be what she want to be, but I'm just not believing in her, you know, because I know she ain't people of color.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, sir. Thank you for your input. And just one more question. Do you think Kamala Harris will be better for this economy if she is elected as president?
Not talking like she talking now.
What are her policies?
Her policies is to make these people richer and help them and lock us up. You know, that's what she was saying on TV. They were talking about what they doing for the wealthy already, not for the needy. They ain't got us no stimulus checks. They ain't did nothing to help us feed our children or for housing or nothing else. All they laws is to lock us up. It ain't to help us.
I appreciate your input. So I'm here with my main man.
I'm advisor board of the Disciple Nation in Chicago.
Okay, man, you tall too, man. Jeez Louise. So tell me, how do you feel?
Like I say, salute to these brothers, you know, for coming out and taking a strong stand in their community on behalf of, we are no longer going to be sitting here and let D.L. Hughley and Steve Harvey and the Plies and all other Olympic shoe shiners buff shine, buff, shine. Those clowns speak on behalf of us and influence our kids. You see what I'm saying? If these kids in the street, if these the individuals that they look up to, then let these individuals talk. I'm all for that. Let them OGs speak. And OGs is saying that the Democratic Party has brought hell on our community and that we need to give Trump a chance. That's a powerful message when the ex-gang leaders speak.
Feel about Donald Trump?
I mean, I respect Trump simply because of his policies, okay? And what I'm talking about is just here, man. You know, us as a people, we never look at the policies that these people running on. We keep voting for Democrats. The Democrats never freed the slaves. It was Republicans that freed the slaves. And how we as a people became Democratic, I don't know. But I always voted Democrat, and I didn't care who I voted for. But as I got older, I realized that Democrats been locking us up from the beginning of time, and they steady locking us up. My people, and I'm not with that. Democrats ain't brought a stimulus check in here yet for our people. But when Trump got in office, Trump, man, he gave so much money to the black community, it was pathetic. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm for anybody that's for my people. Democrats ain't for my people.
There you go, man. And I completely agree with that. So what was your true awakening when it comes to the Democratic Party? Like, what made you say, I'm going to leave the Democratic Party? Was the illegal immigrants getting all of the benefits that us Americans should have?
It's crazy that you speak on that, but you know, when it came to the Venezuelans coming over here to Chicago, to the United States, period, what I didn't understand about the Democrats is how do y'all allow them over here, and yet y'all put them in our community. They're in the black and brown community. You know, and now they became first-class citizens in our community, and we consider second-class citizens. You know, so let's do the demographics and the mathematics on this here. At the end of the day, as long as we are on the books as 3/5 of a human being, we don't have no rights in America. You did, and that's the reality that people need to understand.
Yeah.
You did.
Man,
got more rights than us as a people. You kill a dog and you going to jail for murder. Point blank, period. You know? So, I mean, at the end of the day, man, I'm gonna go with the party that got my people's best interest at home.
It's profound that he said that, because some people are saying, like, what is he talking about? And when he said you kill a dog, you're going to jail in America. We don't have no rights. I just was listening to Judge Joe Brown on another program, and he was talking about how the small-heads Jewish individuals in this country, how they start getting their rights based off of what black Americans was getting. Roll up that good dinner, man. Salute family. What black Americans was getting. They were saying, well, if black Americans deserve it, then Jews definitely deserve it too. Okay. And he was saying that back in the day, when there wasn't really too many laws on the books for black people, he said that they went to the Humane Society and seen what they, and I say, this is crazy. I have to go study this because I never knew this. They went and looked at the Humane Society laws on the books for animals. And I want y'all to listen to me. And they said, salute, family. And they said, if you can't do it to an animal, you definitely can't do it to a black person. And then they start looking at, okay, you're right. That's crazy. Because they had to go to the laws of what you couldn't do to animals. Say, hey, man, if you can't do it to the animals, man, you definitely can't do it to black people. So when he just said, they treat dogs better, that's a fact at times.
At heart. And if it's Republicans, that's where I'm going. You know, I don't care about the Democratic Party. I don't care about the Independent. I don't even care about the Republican Party. I care about the platform and what they pushing and how it's going to affect us as a people. It's time out.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. I agree with that to a certain extent, but I always just take into consideration, like you said, the Republicans are the ones that freed the slaves. It's a
beautiful thing. Oh, this is so beautiful, right? Because so long the Democrats that had our people in the community just putting on their Democratic shirts and wearing and pushing, promoting anything they say. Now you have black men in Chicago, ex-gang chiefs, bosses in the nation, standing up. The youth out there got their shirts on. This is good. This is a good influence. Put down the gang thing and pick up some political understanding and stand out there and let the boule. This is a slap in the face to the boule. Say, y'all do not speak for us. And y'all ain't in the trenches. Y'all can't come to these neighborhoods. Y'all been sitting there in the bougie, air-conditioning locations in Chicago, helping the migrants. These people got boots on the ground. Said, oh, no. We finna put an end to all of that by voting for Trump. That's what they said.
from the Republicans way more than the Democrats or any independent. You know what I'm saying? So I just always take that into consideration, man. And then with Lyndon B. Johnson saying we're going to have these N-words voting Democrat for over 200 years, that's kind of like us being set up. You know what I'm saying? So I would meet if I had a choice.
Lyndon B. Johnson also said, see, this was his game. Lyndon B. Johnson also said, if you the trick on how to control the trailer park whites, that's what he said. He said if you can get the lowest of the low white to think he better than the richest of black, like a trailer park white thinking he better than Michael Jordan because he's still a nigga. He say then they would never think that it's you, the government, picking their pocket, and they will always blame the nigga. And that is what they was doing. You think about Black Wall Street, they will always blame us because our people was having things. They were like, they're taking from us. I want you to understand something. This migrant shit that they say, that's why we got to pay attention because it actually is true. But the people in power, they've always dumped it on another group of individuals when they've been fucking over people in society. Never forget, they start burning our houses. It wasn't just Black Wall Street. It was plenty of our towns got ransacked because the government was telling the whites, it's the blacks. You see, it was the blacks. They took y'all way of living. And then we didn't. We just would start working hard and getting paid. We should start getting paid for our work. You see? So we got to pay attention to things like that.
Between Democrat and Republican, I choose Republican. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. And then our people need to wake up and look at what's really going on. You know, we being set up. Malcolm said it best. We being hoodwinked, bamboozled, and run amok. And if we don't wake up, we're going to find ourselves in a situation that we can't get out of. Because right now, I think they're setting us up as a people to go to jail for the rest of our life or be killed with this Venezuelan movement that's going on in Chicago. And then we got our mayor constantly talking about he bringing more thousands of them in Chicago.
Claiming us as a sanctuary city when we never voted on it. Yep.
Y'all evicting us as a people, but y'all allowing them to take over abandoned buildings, schools, and everything else. What about the homeless population that already existed in Chicago? Y'all didn't do nothing about making sure that the homeless population in this city was situated or any of that. But as soon as the Venezuelans come over here, y'all open up schools and everything else.
See,
and y'all
these real black men right here. These brothers here should be applauded. These real black men right here, they standing up, in their communities, and going against being overran by migrants, having their policies watered down, their votes watered down, and told just to go along with the Democratic Party. This is a rebellion. This is history. We'll talk about this, how real black individuals, and we rose up and say, hell no, we are tired of being overlooked by the boule who rich. They don't really even live around migrants. A lot of these rich black people, they don't live around no damn migrants. The Congressional Black Caucus shoe shiners, they don't live around no migrants, but they pass these policies that's hurting us. But it's a good thing to see these brothers in Chicago saying, the hell with this. We're finna put an end to this being a Democratic stronghold and them being able to do this. Only the Democrats said they should have sanctuary cities and then bust in all the migrants into places where black people were.
I'll house them.
Cooking, bro.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, come on, man. When do this here BS stop? You did? Y'all can't keep doing that to us. And I know that y'all's fearful of these street organizations in this city because y'all know that's the warrior clan in this whole.
You just said they fearful of them street organizations. You're damn right. That's why they got Hoover and Jeff Ford off the street. Too powerful. And when they was trying to politic, when they wasn't always gangster stuff going on, man. They start trying to do politics and get people to vote. And that's when they say, oh, hell no. And I keep telling people this, always remember, you had three people in power in Chicago. You had Jeff Ford, you had Larry Hoover, and you had Fred Hampton. Who did they decide to kill and assassinate? Fred Hampton. You make it make sense that the FBI looked at Jeff Ford, Larry Hoover, and Fred Hampton and said, okay, Fred Hampton, that's the one that got to die. Because they knew getting our people, they didn't give a damn about street stuff that was going on. No. Don't let them understand that if they unite and come together, they can throw us out of office. They can actually run the purse in their community, how much money flows this way, that way. And one of them street organizations understood that. Like he said, they really start targeting them. But this is an awakening of the revolutionary brothers and the brothers who was labeled as gangs, but really uniting to come together and do some good work.
Whole nation, cause we ain't buying none. We gonna fight, and if that's what y'all want, like Falcon said, man, we not scared.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yep, and that's exactly what Trump said too. We gonna fight, baby. Yeah, I appreciate your time and your words, so a lot, man. Thank you so much. Yep, we got some young fellas out here, man, with their Trumpian shirts on, man. So what brings y'all out here today, man? Why y'all supporting Trump out here today?
We're just trying to make America great again.
Man, that's what's up.
What that mean?
Better school and better, better housing.
Yeah.
Jobs, you know what I'm saying?
Come on. That's
You
right.
know, just like how they helping others, help our peoples out here too.
Yep. Do you guys think the economy was better now or 4 years ago when Trump was in office?
Yeah, he was in office. When he was in office, that's because Biden ain't doing nothing right now.
Definitely when he was in office, because you seen more people having more money and was able to get jobs more and all type of stuff. So, you know, he was really for us though.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to that stigma that Republicans are for the rich, do you guys still believe that?
I don't believe in Democrat or Republican.
What do you think about that?
I think it's all a gimmick too. I really think it's all a gimmick. I really feel like it's all they just all for themselves. So, you know, I don't really be looking into that though. I don't be.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not trying to give us no money. The Democrats ain't trying to even help our people of color.
Right.
You see, we have to understand, long ago, we was all, Republicans. We all were, and then here come the Democrats and all this other stuff. You see what I'm saying with the brainwash, what's going on now, you see? And if she do win or they get back in, ain't nothing gonna get better. We're gonna be in the same state that we in right now. Yeah. The only time change came to us or America is when Trump first got in the office. Yeah. That's when we first started seeing America being great, you see, because Trump added all of us in, black everybody. And all the ones that wasn't fit to be here, he sent them back home. Yeah. So these people want these people they bring it in just to help them. They really pushing us out the way. Look, they used to put us in jail for going in these buildings trying to live. Look at these Venezuelans. They coming in, they opening up shop, they ain't locked them up, they getting them money. Why they didn't give us no money? We still homeless, a lot of us. How they getting better treatment than us? And we don't want to help y'all build on America.
I completely agree. Yeah. And you made a good point about it not just being black people, but all Americans as well. So I appreciate you saying that. Yep. So guys, we do have the Blue Truce right here. And I just want to let you guys know, we do support the Blue Truce. We are out here safe in Englewood, Chicago. We are on the corner of 69th and Halsted, guys. Now, they don't want to believe that, saying black people don't support Trump. But as you guys can see, we are outside and we are supporting Donald Trump.
The news will never show that.
We got more people over here.
Nah, they supposed to be on the news. They ain't gonna show that. You think they gonna show that on the news? Hell no, because they want the news to think that all blacks are so excited about Kamala. That's a lie. Those are sorority people. This ain't the regular people in the streets. So they're not thinking like that.
We don't have to tell Kamala Harris that, first of all, you ain't black. We're black out here, and we support Donald Trump. Okay, and I am here with a lovely lady today in Englewood, Chicago. And what is your name, ma'am?
Vicki Willis.
Vicki Willis, and I see your sign. Can you explain your sign for us?
Yes, I'm here as the mother of Al Tariq Pleasant, who unfortunately, and I'm not going to cry right now, lost his life inside of Cook County Jail. In August of 2022, my son was declared dead. Something happened to him. It was a brief little excerpt on Fox News about Al in July of 2022. And since I've been advocating for him, all of a sudden Cook County Jail has been doing all these drug busts inside the jail. I just still don't even really know what happened to my son. I just know that
is it an open investigation? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Not necessarily, no. It's not necessarily an open investigation, but it did take 16 months to get a video because it took when something happens to your family members inside the jail, they have the Illinois State Police do a investigation. And so they told me they went through so many hundreds of hours of video, but my son was only there for 36 hours. So he got there on the morning of July 20th, and by the 21st, his heart had stopped, and that's what I know.
Was it from drugs?
That's what Cook County Jail said. So my question was, my son wasn't there long enough to receive mail. He wasn't there long enough to do anything but go to court, change his clothes, go back to court. By about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, according to them, his heart stopped beating. And
Did you get an autopsy of some sort?
Yes, I did, and the autopsy did not say the same thing.
Wow, guys.
But I'm not surprised. Like, the 2 years since my son has been dead, I found out a lot. Like, my son is one of 300 people that are documented have losing their life inside of Cook County Jail. And they label the deaths either drug overdose or suicide or something like that. So there's a lot. I feel that Thomas Durk needs to be removed from his position. I feel that Tony Breckwinkle also needs to be removed from her position. There are a lot of people like myself who vote Democrat because they're black, right?
Yep.
And we see black faces, so we're like, oh, but all skin folk and kin folk, no, they don't have anybody's best interest at heart. But I'm not here just about the black and white issue, because there are a lot of people all over the nation. I've traveled from Boston, Massachusetts to California, and I've realized that people are losing their lives inside of jails. Don't nobody give a damn because you got arrested. My son was there for failure to appear in court, and he died.
And I feel like that's sick in our country, that just because someone gets incarcerated that they have to lose their rights. I don't feel like that's right, because they're still human at the end of the day. Right. Some of these people are innocent. Yes. You feel what I'm saying? So it's just a sad judicial system that we have in America right now. Me personally, I feel like when it comes to the Democrats, they make our justice system way worse, because they are the ones that's trying to defund the police. They're the ones that's basically they're not for blue troops. They're for crime. They're the ones that have the open borders that's bringing the drugs in. You know what I'm saying? And that's getting into these prisons and stuff like that. So when we just got to take into consideration the people that we vote for and their laws. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we can't be sad because we're starting to wake up though now when it comes to black people, but we still have to remember who we're voting for in their policies. It's not because of me personally. I'm not a fan of identity politics. You know what I'm saying? So, right.
So the guy before me was saying something about, we don't know when blacks started voting Democrats. Black people on whole started voting Democrats because it was in the 1940s when the Democrats came out and publicly denounced the Klan. So then all black people started voting Democrats. That's when it happened. Before then, all black people were voting Republicans, because when you do a blind study, most black people actually align with Republican ideology. I even did this as a blind study while I was a Chicago public school teacher. I retired in 2022. But
I've heard of that study. That's actually true.
It is very much true. And I did it with my students, and they were like, oh my God, like I really actually have Republican values. And I said, you actually do. We all just started voting black for Democrat because we thought that their social service program.
Most black people who grew up in any type of church, you have conservative values. They have just all went astray for pay. And now now they're trying to get out. They're trying to raise our kids to be part of this new way of thinking, and where anybody could be anything. You could be a girl, you could be a boy. They transition our babies. So the values won't be there, and they won't have no ties to the ancestors. These new generations have no link to our ancestors, and that is what the Democratic Party wants. Small hats are behind them, and it's to cut off any cultural ties. They love to destroy civilizations, and that's how they're trying to destroy, especially destroy us. If you cut our link to the past, our past is our morals, our values.
Programs and all the stuff that they were offering.
And they're free, right? That's the key word is free when it comes to Democrats. It's always, we're going to give you free healthcare. We're going to give you free food. We're going to give you free. And then when people hear free, they go for it.
And they don't even look to see what it's about. And just because the person is Black, and I'm going to say this 15,000 times, just because they're Black does not mean that they have your best interest at heart. And especially if they've never been in your shoes, like no one's ever been in my shoes before. No one's ever, half of these people don't even know what it's like to have a child with mental health issues, LGBT.
That's why I keep telling people, I said this, there's no way in hell you can go along with every person that's so-called Black. They're good for you. I'll repeat, if you remove the so-called whites from amongst us, we still never got along with people who were unevenly yoked with our custom and our ways of living. That's what we got to understand. But they have tried to remove that from they don't want us to know about those ways of living so they can trick us into believing anybody that we see as a Black person, we can identify with them. That's how our leaders get killed, because you don't know who these people is. You don't know what their backgrounds is. They just using their skin to get in on every goddamn thing. That's how we keep crumbling from the inside, being set up.
BQTIA. My son was a father, like he had been homeless for a little while. What I'm gonna say it like this: what did the Democrats do for us? Democrats did nothing for my son. I'm gonna stop talking right there.
Okay, and thank you so much for that. You're a very strong woman, by the way. Thank you so much. Tell me why you're here supporting Donald Trump today.
Hi, hello. It's a beautiful day in Chicago. Okay, so for me, my number one reason, my main reason, and I think that especially if you're Black, African American, whatever you are, you need to vote for Trump. The main reason is that the illegal immigration crisis or problem, it's worse in Black Chicago.
It is.
So the way I see it, Trump said on day one that we, meaning the United States or his administration, would have the largest mass deportation in American history.
Yep.
I believe him. And
I don't think he's joking either, yeah.
Also, because he knows that will take care of a lot of our problems. Okay, so the way I see it, day one, as all of the illegals that have entered, especially into our city, once they're rounded up by ICE, once they're deported, the jobs will open up, the housing will open up, the money that the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, is spending, the millions and millions of dollars on illegal immigrants, that will automatically dry up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, it's a domino effect in a good way, because all of this means that there will be more jobs for our people. There'll be more housing for our people, and more money and resources that should and can go to our people. And I just feel like he's the only one. Now, all the other stuff, I don't know. I don't really care about, because it doesn't really affect my people. I'm only concerned about my Black people. We've already had examples of something similar happening almost 10 years ago in the suburbs of Chicago, where there was a factory that had been employed 99% of the factory was illegal migrants or Mexicans.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
This was a real thing.
Yeah.
It always stuck in my brain because Jesse Jackson came on TV. The company will almost shut down, but as soon as when ICE was able to do their job, and they rounded them up, and they were not legal. Guess what? If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was the next day, Black people were in line to get all those jobs.
And some of those people some of those African Americans he let out of jail as well, and gave them jobs instantly.
And so we already have a precedence for this happening. So when people say, oh, Black people don't want these jobs, you're lying, because we already prove it. Let's prove it like they did back then.
That's a fact.
Because it was all on the news. It was so amazing that all these black people were in line to get all these jobs, that 99% of this factory was hiring these illegal immigrants. And so multiply that times a million.
Man, not even kidding when you say that.
So for me, that's all what it's about. That will take care of our economics. That will take care of any monies. That will stop the money. We ain't even got to beg Brandon. Stop giving our money to the illegal. No, because it's gonna dry up.
Right.
You won't be able to, because
the value of the dollar is basically decreasing every single day the more we print.
So this is why I said in the beginning, this is our number one issue. I don't care about nothing else. If you have a job, that'll take care of your money problem.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's my
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yep, have a good one. And I am here with a lovely lady today, guys. What's your name?
Vanita Whitehead.
Vanita Whitehead, you got a nice button there. I appreciate you wearing that today. So we are out here in Englewood, Chicago. And what brings you out here supporting Donald Trump today?
Well, I'm here on the south side of Chicago in support of Donald Trump. I call him my president because we need to unify. In our community, we need to come together. We need to be educated, get information about what is going on and what President Donald Trump is actually trying to do for our community. He's trying to just make our country great again. Right now, we have a lot of challenges going on in our country, and we want to support him so we can make our economy great again like it was, low unemployment, and so that people can have jobs, people can thrive, people can have ability to get contracts, and it's not just going to the illegals, but it's coming to the native-born Americans. And I want to get as many people. We're doing voter registration. We want to get as many people as we can registered to vote over there, too. So that's why I'm out here to support I call him my president, Donald Trump.
That's good.
Yep. And I believe this is his third term.
To the vote.
Because, you know what I'm saying? I think, you know what I'm saying, it was rigged, but I ain't going to get too much into that. But, yep, I appreciate your words. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got for today, man.
Oh, I know them Democrats pissed because usually they come in our neighborhood and they register us to vote, but they try to register us to vote for the Democrats. Oh, I know Democrats going to be pissed. They're gonna tell the police, why you did you check them for guns? What you just sitting around for? You should have planted something. I know them cops pissed. I know they're pissed. Because that go against all the lies they've been telling to all the black people. They so energetic for Kamala. Well, who? I haven't met none. These people, where are they at?
Why are so many black African-American males going over to the Republican Party? I believe one of the profound reasons that we are is because black men are understanding that they're waking up to the fact that they've been voting Democrat for decades and decades and decades, but yet our schools, every area of our society we're in an inflation right now. We're in an economic crisis right now. We voted Democrat and nothing has changed. And hopefully, and black women are still on this plantation, this Democrat plantation, because they don't know our policies. They don't care about our policies, but they just choose to vote Democrat because that's what grandma did. That's what great grandma did. I did that too myself. But Democratic policies have destroyed Black America for too long. We have been on that plantation, and many black men are waking up understanding that the Democratic Party with illegal immigration, with high inflation, is destroying our communities. And we have.
This was the precise moment I no longer was a Democrat.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
That was the precise moment that I knew I was leaving the Democratic Party, because I was a 2-time bone cancer survivor. I voted for Obama-Biden based on Obamacare. And when it was implemented in 2010, I ended up losing my insurance. I went from an insurance plan that was $185 a month with a $1,000 deductible to that policy being canceled because it no longer met the requirements of Obamacare. And I was left with the cheapest option being $1,200 a month, $6,000 deductible. $185 a month, $1,000 deductible to $1,200 a month, $6,000 deductible. I went 10 years without insurance, and I was penalized each year because I could no longer afford insurance. And in 2016, every single Democrat candidate up on that debate stage raised their hand and said they would give illegals free health care. While me, as a 2-time bone cancer survivor, lost mine. Didn't have insurance for 10 years, and I was supposed to get CT scans, chest x-rays, and all these other tests done every 6 months to ensure my cancer didn't come back. And they wanted to give illegals free health care. That was the exact moment I was no longer a Democrat.
Hey, welcome back. It's your man Wise, and today I have a great video to share with you guys. This is another street interview by my guy Vinny Rodriguez. The full link to this video will be in the description box below. These brothers here are explaining why they decided to leave the Democrat Party. There has been a plethora of people who have decided to dip out, who have had a chance to check out the policies of the left. Some people actually lived in the detrimental policies of the left, and they decided that they just can't do it anymore. And they decided to make a move. And these people are explaining why they made that move. I mean, honestly, it's really simple at this point. You look at what's happening, you look at the amount.
Revolutionary salute to our brother Golden Mask for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. Absolutely appreciate the love, family. Salute.
People coming across the border. You look at the cost of inflation. You look at the fact that they want to take care of these people while Americans starve, while Americans either struggle to pay health insurance or can't afford it at all. This current administration has put the American people last when you think about it. And they've put people that just got here over us. We're going to get into this video. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. I know people had said that they've been unsubscribed. We're fighting an uphill battle. Make sure you hit that like button for me. And without further ado, let's go.
Man, I want people to be more involved in their local politics. I mean, we can get Trump in the office, but we still need to get the House and the Senate on board as well. We have to start holding these people responsible. We have to start paying more attention to legislation. We have to start to educate ourselves and educate one another, because these people are not giving us all the information. We don't know these people sometimes when we go to these voting booths and who they are. We just checking boxes and filling in circles. We have to do more research, guys, on a local level. You know, and it's time for us to start putting the government back in their place. The government works for the people, not the other way around. And so we got to be more involved and a lot more vocal, guys. Seriously, we just can't just be sitting around yelling at a computer screen or yelling at our phones. We have to be more active. We have to be more vigilant. We have to be able to converse and be able to share information, you know. So get out there and do your due diligence and do your research and spread the word.
What's been your biggest pain point for this current administration over the last 4 years?
What's been my biggest what?
Biggest pain point. Like, what's your biggest hang up with the Democratic Party last 4 years?
Nah, it's been a Democratic Party for my whole life. I used to vote Democrat, but I was ignorant. I didn't know anything about politics. And so just the way that they just the foundation that Democrats are built upon. I don't like their morals. I don't like where they're leading this country. So it's just the Democratic Party altogether has failed us. I wouldn't even just say it was one president or the vice president who's trying to run, or the president, the Democratic president before him, before Obama. I did not like it. That's what made me switch over and get involved in politics. I did not like the way that the Democrat Party was ran. I'm from an urban city. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. It's ran by Democrats. It's a swamp. And I'm tired of it. And I go to all these different states all around the country. I've been to 49 states. And then when I go in their urban cities and these big cities or whatever, it's swamps. High crime, high murder rate, a lot of homelessness. Why does it look like that in all these Democrat cities? I'm sick of it. And so it's just the Democratic Party altogether I don't think that they're very honest people. I wouldn't say that they are not intelligent, but they're very manipulative. I don't put anything past them. So that's why I encourage people to seriously do your research and research the history of the Democratic Party and what they really stood for and where they really stem from.
Wow. I agree with this brother 1000% on every point he's made up to this point. Yes, You need to know who your local officials are. And to be honest with you, the local elections mean more to you because they affect you on a day-to-day basis. Make sure you take that time, do some due diligence. The thing is that most people, not all, but once they take the time to do a little research, do a little digging, they get informed about who the parties are, what their policies are, what they'd like to implement, and what the policies were of, maybe if they were Democrats and they can look at the policies of Donald Trump. Once you start to compare, it makes it really easy to make a decision. But I keep saying this, a lot of the time people vote Democrat, not because they believe in the policies, but because they don't know. A lot of those folks are low information voters. And the Democrats, they prey on low information voters. That's why they'll give you a Magna Stallion. That's why they'll send someone to you to rap to you. That's why they'll give you these phrases that mean the opposite of what the phrase means, but they'll give you these phrases and slogans that rhyme because they know if they can give you this, they don't have to explain to you exactly what the phrase or slogan means as long as it sounds good or feel good to you. And the thing is that the Democrat Party, they are the party of feelings. They're the party of, we want to make you feel good. We don't want to do anything for you. We don't want to pass any legislation that has any real substance, but we want to make you feel good about yourself. So we're going to put a Black woman in place. We're going to put, a Black woman in the Supreme Court who don't know what a woman is. We're going to put people in positions to, have power, not because they deserve it, not because they've earned it, but because they know how to play the game, and it will make people feel good, and people fall a victim to it.
Why did you used to vote Democrat?
Because of the generational ignorance. I thought because I was black people were supposed to vote for Democrats, and so I voted for Obama because I was excited because he was black, and that was it.
What changed your mind? Like after you figured out how manipulative they were, do you think other people around you started seeing the same thing in your area in Missouri?
Nah, I had to actually travel outside of Missouri. I had such a closed mind back when I was in Missouri. So it took for me to get on a plane and start traveling to see that everybody didn't think the way that I thought, that it was my mindset that was holding me back, because it was a point in time where I thought I used to blame everything on the white man and everything on the rich people. That's what I was taught. That's what people always told me, and I believed it. But then I started to travel around the country, and I started to meet people and converse with them, and it just totally opened my eyes to things that I didn't even know was going on. So when Trump started talking about drain the swamp, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about.
Right.
But as I started doing more research, I was like, well, I couldn't believe the things that were happening in this country. And so he was very passionate about keeping America first. So he gave me that sense of pride for where I come from, and that sense of pride for America. I didn't always have that. And so it just, like I said, I'm like, man, once I started doing my research, I was like, I got conservative views.
Right.
So that's where it kind of worked out for me. I was only voting Democrat because they were black. That's what I thought we were supposed to vote.
Most Black people have conservative views. Most. They were brought up conservative. Well, maybe not brought up, but to an extent brought up conservative. At least, have been taught conservative values for sure. But for whatever reason, just continue to vote against their own interests and what they believe in. And it's just really, really unfortunate. But once you break away from that, I'm a firm believer that one, you do need to take some time to get away from the people that you grew up around. I also think it will benefit you greatly if you travel outside this country, just so you get an opportunity to see how everybody else lives, and you would have a greater appreciation for this place once you do that. And I was one of those fortunate people, joining the military early on in life. I got a chance to travel and see the world early on, and I got a real appreciation for this country early on, because right then and there at 19, 20 years old, I learned that everybody doesn't have it as good as we do. And it's a blessing that we are here. I'm not saying that this country is flawless, but there's no other place that I would rather be a citizen of, to be honest with you. And I've been to a lot of places. So this brother, he's absolutely right, man. You got to break away from, what feels comfortable, and there's a great phrase out there, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you do that, you will start to learn. And you'll start to, kind of piece things together and start to put together your own perspective and point of view based off of your travels, your dealings with other people, your conversations with other people from other walks of life. And you'll start to see that, okay, this makes sense. That doesn't make sense. I do agree with that. I don't agree with this. And you'll start to be able to formulate your own opinion by doing those things, plus doing some of your own reading and research.
The support for Kamala Harris right now is largely manufactured.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, you know what? You can see it in how they panhandle for votes. They only come around when it's time to vote, and then they always trying to cater to the minority groups.
Right.
I'm sick of it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like they're always trying to tell people that, oh, you're being mistreated. Oh, you're not being treated fairly, and that's always what their campaign is on. It's like, oh, we're here to save the day. We're here to save the week. Like, no, it's the government wants us to be too reliant upon it. They are killing the spirit of Americans. They are killing the spirit of people. We have to have jobs. We have to educate people. That's how you empower them. You educate them. You don't pander to them. You don't just keep trying to give them a crutch. You teach them things. You give them information so that they can build and they can be conductive. I mean, and they can give to society and be, a part of society and help society build and grow. And like you see all these other countries, they're growing at an alarming rate. America, we're falling behind. But that's because everybody's being pandered to. We need some strong people in America. We have to start educating ourselves.
Do you think that's the way to unity for this country, is to educate people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have to, whether we like it or not, we have to be informed. I'm tired of people running off of and voting off of their feelings, how they feel.
Right.
That's the politics and government is a system. Systems have no feelings. Mm-hmm. You got to stop voting with your feelings. Find out what the legislation means and what it does and what it can do for your community and better your community and your state and how it can bring us together as a country. Uh-huh. But, we need to learn first off, we need to learn how to govern ourselves. You learn how to govern yourself, because some people, they don't know how to govern themselves. They run off at the mouth. They're always in their feelings. Learn how to govern yourself, then govern your household, then govern your neighborhood, then go for mayor, then go for governor. Then one day you can run for president like President Trump.
Okay, so did you used to vote Democrat?
When I was much younger, yeah.
What changed your mind?
A lot of the same things my brother said, man. When I heard Trump say drain the swamp, when I heard him say I don't need your money, when I realized that he's for the people, I didn't want somebody in office that says a bunch of things and then nothing. You never see any results, you never see anything happen. So, yeah.
What's been the biggest division that you've seen over the last 4 years between the people? Like, how has this administration divided the people in your eyes?
I mean, where do you want me to start on the list?
You can say whatever you want.
I mean, brother, everything as far as all the agendas. I mean, the whole LGBT thing. I mean, people like cringe when you say stuff like that. But
right,
brother, aren't we all Americans?
Right.
Like, we're all Americans.
Yeah.
I know people from every walk of life that vote both ways.
Uh-huh.
I know plenty of people that are from the LGBT community that stand up and say, I have conservative views. I do want a border. I do want a strong country. I do want a good lifestyle and affordable living. You know what I mean? Like, the economy is horrible right now, and I mean, I wonder why. It's because we're buyers, we're not sellers.
He's absolutely right, and I would agree with him. Most people here in America want a safe border. They want a strong education system. They want the opportunity to work and take care of their families, regardless of what their lifestyle is. But when you have a party that is pandering to a small percentage of people, and then they're also pandering to people that have just gotten here, and they're giving them all our resources. On the flip side of that, they've taxed a lot of our companies, so high that they've decided to leave and pay other countries to manufacture products and then bring it back over here at higher rates. This system isn't working. And this brother's absolutely right, man.
We have plenty of oil. We had everything we need right here.
Do you think that the LGBT people that you're referring to, do you think those voices are silenced?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, it's like I said, man. It's an agenda, and they're all they know what they're doing. They as soon as somebody comes up and wants to speak up, the rest of the community silences them.
Right.
It's not even like, oh well, it should be support your own and hear what another side of someone in my community would be saying. But I mean, let's just shut them up immediately, and that's what we need. That's what needs to change.
That's the Democrat Party for you, though. You have to get all the way on board with everything that they believe in. There can be no dissension there. There's no ability for you to think critically. You have to get 100% on board with everything that they want to implement, or you're the worst thing ever. You will be ostracized, you will be demonized, and you probably will be kicked from the party, because I keep saying this, the Democrat Party is the gang in, blood out. You're either all the way in or you're all the way out. That's just who they are.
How big is the risk of another Democratic administration for another 4 years in your eyes?
It's the risk. We're hoping it's not as big as we think, or as some would think. I wouldn't say it's as big of a risk. I say a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are realizing. We know the truth, and it's just how many other people are knowing it. I mean, and time is running down. We have 80 days, 70-something days.
Yeah.
So I mean, we need to let the people know.
Do you think there's any way that they can pull it off in 80 days, the Democratic Party?
No, I mean, just for people that know, if you know, you know, right?
Right.
I mean, if you listen to some of the things that, if you listen to some of the things that she's saying, I mean, it's just, she runs in circles. She says the same things, backwards. And I mean, it's just anybody,
It's kind of like a clown circus.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's funny. That's exclusive. It's wild to see how many people actually follow it. And I mean, but yeah, that's what we got to change. We're all Americans. We need to wake up, and people need to see, it's not, the Republican Party was for the people, was for the minorities. It's the morals, are from the Constitution that our forefathers built and put in place, and it's because it works. It's beautiful and it works, and that does not need to change. So,
if you had one last word to tell the American people right now that are undecided, what would it be?
I say, do your research. We need to do your research. Find out, look locally, but do your research. Find out about Trump. He's not racist. He's not any of these things that people make him out to be. He's a great guy, and he's done tons of great things. And anybody that knows him will say that. Before he ran for president, everybody loved him. He was widely loved. He backed Jesse Jackson. When Jesse Jackson beat Las Vegas, all the fights. I mean, everybody, every celebrity loved him. He was in rap videos. He was every talk show.
He's absolutely right, man. This is one of those things where, as we get closer and closer to the election, obviously this week the DNC starts, and they got their own set of issues that they're going to be dealing with there. With the protesting, pro-Palestine protesters, and it's out in Chicago, so I would assume that there's going to be a lot of brothers and sisters, down in Chicago protesting the DNC as well because of the open border. The Democrat Party, they've backed themselves into a corner, and now they are starting to eat their own. But we as Americans, we need to become a whole lot more politically astute. We need to understand the policies that these candidates would like to implement. And then we also need to get a real understanding of what's happening on the local market or in your local area. Get an understanding of who your state representative is. Get an understanding of who your senator is. Get an understanding of who your representative is in the House. You can reach out to those people. You can call those people. Get an idea of what they believe in, and don't just go down there like the brother said in the first clip, and just check a box or fill in a circle because you think that's individuals with one party or another. Take some time and do a little digging, do a little bit of research. Sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where you don't have a choice. I know for us here, we got a Senate seat open. We're in a pickle. We're in a pickle right now. because the candidate that I wanted did not win in the primary, but the Democratic candidate that did win in the primary, in comparison to the former Governor Hogan, I'd have to choose him over her because she's extremely radical. So it's just those things that we really got to take some time and just research. And I'd like to see more and more people get involved in the process, especially on a local level. So many people get up in arms about who's going to be, you know, the president. And I do think that that seat is important. I'm not saying that it's not, but who sits in the governor's seat in your state matters just as much, if not more. Who your mayors are, who your city council officials are. You see what's happening up in New York. Their entire city council up there is super woke, and you see the policies that have been implemented up there in New York, and it's hurting a lot of people. We got to do better as a people. It's really a breath of fresh air, honestly, to see people starting to wake up on both sides of the aisle. And you got a lot of men that are leading the way. A lot of men are leading the way, saying what they have going on over there on the Democrat Party, it just doesn't make sense. And it's not good for us. It's not good for this country. Let me know what you guys think about this. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. I appreciate all the love and support. Consider
groups that you believe they discuss these types of topics. Shout out to you all. Thank y'all so much for being patient and waiting for the LFR family to start posting live streams again. We have been dealing with illness in our household, and I am finally feeling up to really starting to get back on a horse and doing this consistently again. All right, so yesterday's DNC. Have you guys watched, did you guys watch the DNC yesterday? I know more than likely your answer is no, but I watched it. And I watched it for many reasons. I watched it to be informed, to understand what's going on the left. Remember, I voted blue my entire life, but I registered Republican after the first term of Barack Obama, because there was something that I didn't see him doing that I thought he was going to do for the Black people. So I registered Republican, but I still voted blue no matter what, because that's how I was raised up to vote, simple and plain. But I saw some things in last night's DNC that rubbed me the wrong way. One thing was when they made Joe Biden wait until 11:30 p.m. Now, this dude is literally the oldest person in the building outside of probably Jesse Jackson, who they also just rolled out on a daggone floor as a tribute to show that, look, guys, we got Jesse Jackson here, who they claim was Trump's friend, but look who he's here to represent. He's here for Joe Biden. So they waited for Joe Biden to, they waited for like 11:30 or something like that for him to come out there and speak. And then when he was trying to speak, I get it. We're showing love. We're going to clap. We're going to applaud. We're going to stop you from speaking because we're showing that we love you so much. But it seemed like they was doing it intentionally. It made no sense when they were starting their rants. We love Joe. We love Joe. And then Nancy Pelosi was also holding up one of them signs saying we love Joe, when we know good and well that is a complete lie. But we're going to jump into it. I got a couple of videos that I want to check out with you guys. Some is coming from the DNC. Some is coming from outside the DNC, where people are giving their opinions on Kamala. Specifically, Black voters are giving their opinions on Kamala, but they did go, so they get points for that. Let's play this right here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi's disdain for Joe Biden and how they blatantly disrespected this dude. They blatantly disrespected this dude on the night that he was supposed to pass the torch. That's what they kept on saying, over to Kamala Harris. Y'all let me know whatever y'all want me to know in the comments. And thank you again for pulling up.
But meanwhile, once Biden finally got on the stage, he tried to dispel reports of anger and resentment over his 2024 exit.
It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as your president. I love the job, but I love my country more. I love my country more. And all this talk about how I'm angry at all those people who said I should step down. That's not true.
Well, chanting in unison with that was none other than Nancy Pelosi. Despite reports of acrimony, she now loves Joe too. In fact, just weeks after orchestrating the plot that led to the end of Biden's 50-year career, Pelosi was in the crowd chanting, "We love Joe." She loves him, but she has no regrets about the brutal and cold scheme to take him out.
Have you talked to him? Is my only question.
What I have to do.
Right.
He made the decision for the country.
No, he didn't.
My concern was not about the
It's
president.
cold. This lady here cold-blooded, bro. He made the decision. No, he didn't. He didn't want to go. You forced him, Nancy. And now y'all hear the latest, right? They know Joe Biden not going quietly. Joe got a couple of files on all of them too. He been in the Senate a long time. So y'all heard that. Now they got more evidence, you know. Oh, they talking about impeaching him because they say he been corrupt. There's all kind of shit going on. That's just to threaten Joe, to let him know that he may have a little immunity for now, but he won't when he leave. And Hunter Scholl ain't got no immunity.
It was about his campaign.
Bull sugar honey
Like
iced
evil,
tea.
man.
He did not make no decisions. The brother couldn't even make no decision where to go to the bathroom or when to go to the bathroom.
He
couldn't. He
Nah,
wasn't in a
Joe Biden was very cognitive. He had good understanding when he said only God Almighty could take me from power. He said that on TV. So he knew he didn't want to leave power. Nah, ain't nobody that crazy. They want to give up being a president of the United States. Nah, he knew they overthrew him.
in a position to make his own decisions. You guys made that decision for him. The same way that you guys made the decision for him to hold on for far longer than he should have, but he should have been come to the forefront about that. But y'all kept on saying that conservatives were playing this whole conspiracy theory type of thing when they were saying that Joe was not ready to be the president. He was not mentally there anymore. And you all were calling conservatives liars. You all were acting like Biden was still as sharp as attacked. You all was doing that when he was actually just the puppet at this point of another Obama term. And y'all already know that. But let me go ahead and let her continue to lie.
He has seen the exuberance, the excitement that has come forth in our country.
Nobody is questioning the fact that the Democratic Party seems much better positioned right now than it did 4 weeks and 2 days ago. There's no question about that. Former Speaker Pelosi.
So why are we even talking about it?
They put it on my script and made me read it.
You know, she might not want to talk about it, but Nancy Pelosi's fingerprints were all over Biden's ouster. You know, Robert, I'm sure you saw the July 10th Morning Joe interview where she said we are waiting for Joe Biden to make a decision, despite the fact that he had made his decision to leave. Jake Sherman said that was like a bomb going off. And then came the headlines, tons and tons of assertions of Nancy Pelosi's role in this. Washington Post, Pelosi told House Democrats Biden may be soon persuaded to exit. CNN, Pelosi privately told Biden polls show that he cannot win. And New York Post, Nancy Pelosi forced Biden into a come to Jesus moment about 2024 run with threat to publicly trash him.
Jamie Sanderson, you don't have to wait. Look at the screen right there. It's all over the screen. It's all over the screen. Also, they know the mental state that Joe Biden is in, and they still acted as if he did nothing for the party. Yes, they still praise him. Joe, you did such an amazing job. We're going to love you and miss you, Joe. Joe. That's how they was treating him last night, right? But guess what? They made him wait until 11:30 p.m. to speak. Until 11:30 p.m. to speak. This dude was not even awake. What they do? Wait until 2 p.m. for him to go to sleep, take his nap so that they can wake him up at 9 p.m. to get him ready for his speech at 11 p.m. That makes absolutely no sense to me. And then they have all of his friends there. Everybody that's supposed to respect him are there. And guess what? He's not going to be at the DNC anymore for the rest of the week. They're going to ship this dude over to California somewhere where he's going to go on another vacation. Then he just now get back from a vacation. They're going to ship him and Jill off some daggone where they can't be around to screw up their new plan. So that's how they disrespected them, Jamie. Thank you so much for pulling up, though, big dog. I really appreciate you. I love when other people pull up who not on the same focus as I am, but I appreciate you, brother.
There is some tension there, Robert, despite the "We Love Joe" hoisting of the sign.
So is that to me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thanks for having me on. So a lot to unpack there. First, I liked that he got on late and went a little longer. I think for all the East Coasters, we wanted to make sure that he could stay up past midnight. So I think they did that as a tease post the debate. Listen, there was electricity in the air last night. You know, I've been a huge Joe Biden fan. I was an early supporter for him in 2020. I stayed unwavering throughout and until the day he resigned. My view was kind of the perfect storm happened, Kaylee. You know, the polls broke, the electoral map widened, the donors went to the sideline. And after seeing, you know, whether it was Speaker Pelosi or others kind of, you know, pushing him to kind of make a more pragmatic decision, he made one. And like he said, he made it. I thought last night was great for him and his family. You know, I see it just very differently. I think it was his ability to kind of have a goodbye where everyone was just applauding him.
You know, Robert, I do think that's a very honest analysis as to what led to his exit. But Harris, I mean, in contrast to Robert, who just laid out what I think are undeniable facts, I mean, there's a heavy dose of deniability over at MSNBC. Listen to Rachel Maddow.
In a truly astonishing, once-in-a-lifetime sacrifice that he did not have to make, that no one forced him to make, nor could anyone force him to make it. A sacrifice of his own ambitions for the good of the country, for the prospects of his party. President Biden instead chose a plan B.
President Biden instead chose a plan B. Come on, long neck Maddow. You know better than that. Trying to act as if this dude actually made up his mind to do that is extremely disingenuous. And honestly, they should be held to account for that. I have a young lady or two or three who got something to say about this whole Kamala thing and DNC, that they were giving out free abortions for people who came to the DNC. They were giving out free vasectomies to people who were giving out the came to the DNC. And I heard they was giving out free colonics as well. So either way, you were covered on either end. Just bend over or open your legs, and then when you leave, you're going to be a better person, I suppose. But check this out right here. I want to excuse any type of foul language that might come from any videos that I might play today. But guys, I have warned you. You might hear some things. And as Christians, don't judge me too harshly. All right? I'm just the presenter here. I am just the presenter here. We are speaking the truth, and some people might get their little feelings in a bunch based off of what's about to be said.
How do you say, I don't want y'all here, without saying I don't want y'all here? Probably by offering free abortions and vasectomies. Oh my goodness. At the DNC, wow, in Chicago, where illegal immigration has taken over communities. Are they really? Listen, they are really literally pushing the Black folks out and replacing them. But they don't know that. But y'all out here fighting to become what? Extinct through a party that don't give a single thought about you? If one more of y'all Kamala, I think I got it right, supporters tell me that she's the one for us, she's qualified. Listen, she may be qualified on paper, but she ain't bona fide through her heart. Her heart isn't bona fide towards the American people. She done rolled out a plan to unalive Blackness, vasectomies and abortions. So y'all so manipulated, so discombobulated in your reasoning that these people have y'all actually holding signs and shouting, we ain't going back, we ain't going back, singing choir songs, we ain't going back. You know, y'all right, we aren't going back. Not me. I'm not going back to another 4 more years of this horse manure. And tell me why. Why have they put pellets of bricks, then set them around the city of Chicago where the DNC is about to take place? Why? Because they are about to start some crap. They about to try to burn down these cities. And somebody is funding this chaos. And it's not the American people. No, it ain't us. We out here trying to pay this high light bill, out here trying to pay to eat these high-priced groceries, keep a roof over our heads. So don't y'all point no fingers at us. They done paid these trained protesters, illegals, to burn down and destroy American cities. Boy, these folks in office, they'll allow anything as long as they will help them stay in control. And now watch the headlines, y'all. Watch these headlines when they roll out about these pallets and bricks to disrupt this DNC. Watch the headlines. Gonna read: Trump supporters disrupt DNC. Trump supporters did. Lord help us. Help your people. Help our nation. Y'all need to take the scales off of y'all eyes. We need to be united as one. Oh, Lord, come, Lord Jesus. Vasectomies, abortions, and bricks.
Well, the bricks were left over from the wall that they built outside of the DNC. Now, they claim that they don't want to build any walls. Now, we know for a fact that they most certainly did want to build a wall to protect them, but they don't want to build a wall to protect the United States citizens from illegal immigrants who just want to pull up and do whatever the hell they want to do up in this sugar honey iced tea. But at the end of the day, we need to operate with some type of, no, you know what? If you're going to be upset, be smart about it. Use that when you go to vote. Use that on your platform when you're speaking out about all the BS that's going on. Don't do anything foolish that's going to get you arrested or get you killed, get you unalived. But do this at the voting booth. Speak to people who are too emotional to want to speak to you. They don't want to hear you because all they've been fed were lies. And as soon as you start to give them truth, you're going to come off as the enemy. But here's some other young Black people who got something else to say. Listen, we're going to be doing this all day, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Hit that like button because people don't like having the wool pulled over their eyes. People don't like it. They think for some reason that Black people are out here speaking against Democrats because they're being paid to do so. Did you know that it's actually more lucrative for Black people to be out there supporting and trying to push that DNC train, to push the Democrat train? If I decided to do Democratic commentary tomorrow, I will make a lot more money. And so would a lot of you other content creators out there. They are literally throwing money at people. They are literally sending out emails to people right now saying that if you are willing to talk trash, to talk sugar honey iced tea about Trump and be in support of Kamala, you can be paid for it. And if you are already an influencer or a celebrity, they are ready to pay you $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to platform Kamala Harris and act as if you are this huge supporter of her. Let me tell you something. She's already tried to be on the platforms of the biggest live streamers out there. And they all have been saying, no, nah, I'm good. So they're trying whatever they possibly can to push it forward. Even before the DNC last night, the word on the street is we need to lift up Kamala. We need to show her all the love in the world as if she's the biggest thing swinging right now and act as if she is ready to be president on day one, which is absolutely idiotic. Oh my gracious, Heather. Thank you, Heather. I really appreciate you. You are absolutely awesome. This is Heather, guys. She's been blessing the channel for a long time, ever since we've been going live. I really appreciate it. And Walking Corpse, thank you so much for your super chat, too. I don't want to leave you out at all because all of you guys are absolutely phenomenal. We got some more to check out. Y'all let me know whatever y'all want me to know about this one right here. And make sure y'all smash that like button and share this video, too. That will be extremely helpful. Okay, here we go.
With Trump. You know what I'm saying? I got rich with Trump. You know what I'm saying? I'm with the red team anyway, all across the board. You know what I mean? So like,
hold on, here we
Trump.
go.
You know what I'm saying? I got rich with Trump. You know what I'm saying? I'm with the red team anyway, all across the board. You know what I mean? So like, I always with Trump. I did when I was a kid. I like when he used to talk crazy, the Rosie O'Donnell, all that. I always liked Trump.
Right.
Can't tell me what he did wrong to black people. You niggas are brainwashed and stupid. I still don't know what is y'all talking about. Don't talk about that old Central Park, because everybody thought they did it.
Right.
They got all, okay, sorry, it happens in life. What else can you name? You know what I'm saying? They really can't. You dumb. So like, Kamala Harris, who? Like, I didn't know this whole 4 years she did nothing good.
Right, right.
I'm rolling with the red team, man.
Come on, man.
And my took a bullet and stood up and said, fight on.
Right.
Who's doing that? It could have been a whole SWAT team knocking them down from up there. That nigga took the bullet here and looked at it and said, fight on. Man, who's doing that?
Come on, man.
That's ready for war.
Well, you know, I say Trump is probably the most blackest president.
Always been.
Why.
Definitely blacker than Barack Obama, white ass.
Come on, man. My nigga got baby mama problems.
Come on, champ.
Come on, man. He got shot.
Come on, man. What a
Come on,
big
man.
felon too now.
Went to jail.
Come on now.
Is that not the blackest
President? Paid off the you know what I'm saying, stood in the put, get paid for the and all that. Yeah.
Free Kodak.
Free numerous.
Come on, man.
Pardon Wayne.
Come on, man.
Free Yak.
Hey, man. I'm for Trump, man. Shout out Trump.
Yeah.
Now, I do realize they are talking about the hood stuff that's relatable to Trump. That's not why I like him. It really isn't why I like him. You know, him going to jail, him being shot, him having baby mamas, him having a couple of side pieces. That's not why I like him. I mean, those are things that make him human. Those are things that just make him him. The things that make me lean toward Trump is his policies. The things that make me lean toward Trump is the fact that everything that he's saying today, and I want y'all to hear me on this, especially if you are a Democrat or especially if you are a Trump hater. I need you to hear me on this right here. Trump, everything that he says today, this dude has been saying ever since he was on the couch of Oprah Winfrey before even thinking about running for president. Before she suggested, have you thought about running for president one day? Because he's been thinking about this for his entire career. His entire career, he's been thinking about this. He's always had friends in the game. He just never been in the game. He's always had these same. He was saying the same exact things when The View saw him as a friend. When Barbara Walters was running The View. When Whoopi Goldberg had short locks, when her locks was about the same length as mine, when she was very first on The View. They were just hugging and kissing, and Miss Shepherd was on there, and Joy Behar was sitting beside him with her legs crossed, looking at him all lovingly and longingly, like she was trying to flirt with him and all that other stuff. They loved this dude. And he had the same policies then as he do now. Now, in contrast, you see our VP, Kamala Harris, who could potentially be the next president if they run this emotional train the way that they're trying to do. But when she's stopped and she's asked off script, something about policy, something about what she stands for, she don't even know what the damn say. I once had this video queued up and I said, you know what? I'm not going to show it, but I am. I have to show it now because it's just for her to have been the president for as long, I mean, for her to have been the vice president for as long as she's been the VP, she should be much better at answering questions than she is. Now, I'm not going to play that. Forget it. I'm not going to play that. We've given her enough screen time. But there are real people out here who just have to say enough is enough is enough. Check out these two black sisters. They're friends. And they're just at the DNC, and they're stopped by this one reporter, and then later on, the other girl is stopped by another one and asked the same question about how they feel about Kamala and all these other things. I want y'all to listen to this, this back and forth right here. This one young lady is not playing no games whatsoever. Y'all let me know whatever y'all want me to know in the comments. Don't forget to smash the like button and share this bad boy. That's the only price of admission for my live streams. The super checks are cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate those. But the only thing I need for y'all to do is just to hit that like button and think about sharing this video.
Kamala.
It'll be cool.
She's terrible. If she comes into office, it will be done.
It'll be cool to see a female black. You know, she's half black, not fully black, but it'll be cool to see a black president,
Western Indian,
female black president. But I'm definitely voting for Trump.
Let me tell you something. She tries to get the black vote because if you look at her past things and maybe 10, 15 years ago when she's in interviews, she identifies as West Indian.
She does.
The only way that she's identified as African American is right now, because she wants the voters, but she doesn't give a fuck because where was she at? In these past 4 years, and she's vice president, what has she done for us?
She have not.
Can you say one thing that
I didn't even know she was?
What have you done for me lately? Ooh, yeah. Huh? Kamala, you ever heard that song from Janet Jackson? What have you done for me lately? Ooh, yeah. Huh? That's what they saying. What have you done? They don't know. These are young black women. And they don't know what you've done. They want to know, but they don't know because nobody knows. No one knows.
The vice president.
Can we say what she has done?
Let's go, Trump.
And I am going to stand on Trump. And I'm so sorry if that may ruffle people's feathers. But I have done my own research. And Trump has done a lot for us, more than what the media tries to portray. They're getting all our favorite rappers. They're having Megan Thee Stallion twerk and all of that to gain because they think that that's going to make us vote for them. And that's not.
That never got my vote.
And that will never get my vote.
Twerking
and I'm going to stand on that. Twerking
did
and
not get my
having
vote.
Meg Thee Stallion, first off, the song that she was even saying is very ignorant.
Let me tell you something. First of all, don't talk bad about Meg Thee Stallion. Meg Thee Stallion got a big old butt. And I'm a black man, and I love me a big old booty patootie. Just make sure you're wiping it good, baby. Just make sure you're wiping your butt good. But what the young lady is saying, and I know y'all talking about that, ooh, don't talk about the nasty booty. But check this out. What she's saying is, you don't have to use that to get my vote. I think that's actually idiotic to use that to get our vote. For that, I'm with her 1,000%, even though I like a big old butt, and I can't deny. These other brothers like deny. When a girl walk up with an itty bitty bass and a wild thing in your face, you get sprung.
Tell me what's going on with the migrant crisis here in Chicago.
So I will tell you right now, I'm a person that lives on the south side of Chicago, and the migrants that have come in, at one point they were coming in, we were feeling very sorry for them because they came in at a time where the weather was cold. So we're seeing all these people in tents and all this and that. But then we find out that they're getting $15,000 in food stamps, $5,000 in cash. I work for a company, which I will not say, that they're able to come in and they're able to get internet and Wi-Fi and all of this for free because guess what? The government are paying their rent for 2 years. Why is the government paying people that came from another country rent for 2 years? Can we explain that? Because it's a housing crisis right now with multiple homeless people on the streets right now that I could follow and show you homeless people that's been living on the streets. So what makes the migrants better from coming to another country that they get all of this? You know why? I'm going to say why. Because we're about to have another presidential election. So if we make these migrants democratic and we give them the right to vote and we give them all of these things, they're going to vote.
Hold on. It sounds like this young lady might know a thing or two. Huh? It sounds like this young lady might know a thing or two. Did y'all know that that's what Tim Walz did in his state? And they praise him for it? Did y'all know that? He made sure that illegals will have that identification to be able to vote, baby. Tim Walz. Y'all go Google that. Tim Walz is a legend for doing that. He started it off. So yeah, people are saying that she's wrong for not picking Shapiro. No, she picked the right one. She knew who she was picking. It's all about making these illegal immigrants voters for the Democrat Party. And guess what, black people? Black Democrats who are so locked in step by step with the Democratic Party, they are replacing you with these illegal immigrants. And they are blatantly taking care of them with the finances that they are, with the goodie bags, with the credit cards, with the stays at the big old hotels, grandiose hotels. They're purchasing their clothes, they're buying all that baby stuff. They are taking care of them. They are wooing them, letting them know how good it's going to be as Americans, baby. Yes, they are. They're like, look, we'll handle all of the other stuff later. Y'all just go shopping, take care of whatever you want. You want to commit some crime? Go ahead, commit some crime. American citizens will get 10 years for what you're going to do. But if you do it, we'll give you a few months. And then we're going to make sure you get back out of jail so you can do whatever the hell you want to do again. And I'm not playing. See, it would be hilarious if what I was saying was wrong. If what I was saying was made up, it would probably be funny to somebody who's a little sick in the head, a little insane in the membrane, insane in the brain. You know those, who sing that song? Insane in the membrane. You're insane, got no brain. Who sing that song, man? That dumbass song is stuck in my head now. Now I'm going to be thinking about this sugar honey iced tea all the day long. I'm going to be thinking about that dumb song all the live long day, all because Kamala is crazy. Kamala is crazy, all right? The DNC last night was filled with emotion. It was not filled with policy. It was filled with promise of how Kamala was fighting bullies ever since she was a little kid. So when she became big enough and strong enough to fight against bullies, she decided to prosecute them. She said, hey, you look like a bully. I'm going to prosecute you. You look like another bully. I'm going to prosecute you. It just so happened that a lot of those bullies that she was pointing at and trying to arrest were black. Kudos to you, Kamala, for making sure that you put your stamp on black history in the way that you did, especially after doing all you possibly could do to be black, baby. Yes, I get it. Your hue is of a darker color. You have melanin in your skin. So yes, you can be black all you want to be, but understand this, I don't care what's on her resume. And don't get mad at me for what I'm about to say, but Kamala Harris is indeed a DEI hire. And the reason why she is because Biden would not have picked her if she weren't a melanated woman, period. Charlamagne the God on Breakfast Club said, Black community have spoken, and we will support you only if you pick a melanated woman. And what did they do? They went out there and they did just that. And they picked someone who was not doing well by herself. She was getting bullied by Hillary. She was getting bullied by Tulsi Gabbard. She was getting bullied by Joe Biden in the debates. And she tried to have her moments too and try to include herself about busing. You said that you ain't want black people going to school with your white kids, which Joe Biden actually said. You know, the Joe Biden that all the black people voted for and that we love so much. Joe Biden actually said that. He didn't want black people going to school with his white kids. He said it would be like a racial jungle. He actually said that. All right? So she tried to insert herself in and said, I was one of those kids who was on the bus that wanted to go to your white school. Right? She tried to insert herself in that. So she was getting least votes than everybody. But he said, you know what? The black community have spoken. They said that I had to pick somebody with some melanin in their skin. And, well, she's already out here. Why not? You know, is she clean? Is she clean? What's she do? Oh, she already locking up black people? Perfect. I locked up black people. It's a match made in heaven, baby. We both lock up black people. Oh, I want to kiss her in her mouth. That's what Joe Biden was talking about Kamala. You know, he was in love when he found out that she was also locking up black people. So he picked her as a DEI hire. And now, although she didn't do a damn thing for the last 3.5 years, people are willing to vote her into the highest office in the world. All because She is a woman with melanin in her skin. I'm tired of this bull sugar honey iced tea, Jack. This is absolutely crazy. This is nuts. This is where we are now. This is where we are now. And people aren't even hiding it. They claim that Trump is the racist. I will argue that if we are choosing somebody based off of their color, we are the racists.
So I just watched about 5 minutes of the DNC, and I just find it funny how all the Kamala Glazers were talking about fixing problems that they already caused during the Biden administration. It's just hilarious, talking about getting more jobs and lowering the cost of groceries. The cost of groceries are high because of the administration that's current. And I swear I heard like half as much of the crowd booing as they were cheering, which is just also hilarious. But even more hilarious is just the massive amount of protests that are going around the entire convention center too. It's just funny because while they're pretending inside, the reality is happening literally around them with all the chaos and destruction that's going on. And there's a very huge difference between how the DNC is operating right now versus the RNC like a month ago.
That was a very accurate description of what I seen watching the DNC as well. I mean, you can't continue to spew so much divisiveness, be vicious and vile during your term, and even in how you lead, and expect to bring everybody in a room together and everything just be peaceful. So of course, the tension was building up. And then we always say, be your own people. And you put enough Democrats in a room, man, this could happen. The DNC was a straight shit show, if you ask me, and it was blatantly obvious. Let's read a few of these comments. We all called it, and they're finally eating their own. As I said, man, to be your own people. You GD lie. One black man to another, whoever paying for this mind watching of black voters, it's your cash to burn. Vote any way you choose, but black voters under my roof supporting Harris and Waltz. Okay, great for you. How about just referring to us Americans and leave the race BS at the door? We all have eyes. Unify, MAGA. And one more. They honestly think their supporters are stupid and won't remember what Kamala is. Won't remember that Kamala is the reason we're in the situation we're in. And just vote for her now. Some of them actually are, but I think a lot more than they think aren't going to let her get away with it. I mean, right now it's more of a cultural phenomenon in the black community, and people can't see past that. So this opportunity to get a black woman in the office, we can't miss this. And these black conservative men is in the way of that, because I promise you, left-wing media, they have a strong disdain for us. Black conservative men, conservatives in general, but yeah. But this is a must see right here, man. I'm gonna show y'all just various clips that popped up throughout the DNC. Not gonna be in order in any kind of way, but the teleprompter ran out on Jamie Raskin, and he humiliated himself. And this is definitely the whole tone of the DNC.
Someone should have told Donald Trump that the president's job under Article 2 of the Constitution Someone should have told.
Yeah, they coined this as the Democratic national catastrophe right now. It's pretty much the whole theme throughout the night, man. The TDS definitely fried his brain. You can see that it's rotted it to the point to where he just can't even think for himself. He has to wait for the teleprompter. But they just played this blatant Trump takedown, and millions of Americans are watching, okay? They are blatantly trying to get this man to be smeared, obviously, with the campaign going on with the ads, but let's look at the ad that they chose to play at the DNC, the national catastrophe, okay?
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. This is the story of Donald Trump. His entire life, Trump has believed he's above the law, that no one would ever dare hold him accountable. He lies. He rips off workers. He sexually abuses women.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
He cheats in business. He cheated on his wife with a porn star and paid her off so the American people wouldn't find out during an election. But in the criminal justice system, ordinary Americans have had the courage to find him accountable, time and time again.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Donald Trump guilty on all 34 felony counts.
For the first time in history, we have a convicted felon running for president. And to take on this case, we need a president who has spent her life prosecuting perpetrators like Donald Trump. He tried overturning Georgia's free and fair election.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
He's tried to escape any responsibility for instigating the January 6th attack on our Capitol.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
And if elected, Trump has promised to overturn laws that would keep him accountable and exact retribution on anyone he considers an enemy, even warning of a bloodbath if he doesn't get his way. So we, the people, have a chance to render our own verdict on Donald Trump. We are the jury he most fears. When we vote this November, we vote for justice, accountability, and the rule of law that keeps America free.
I believe in freedom, but your boy Joe Biden believes that they're trying to bring us back in chains, and by they I mean y'all. He tried to say it was the right, but it's definitely the left, man. I'm telling you, I think it may be opposite day for him because he could have been talking about the right, but meaning the left, right? Of course, you got the comment section like, yes, Trump is done. Yeah. But then my question is, why is the arena so empty? Only Democrats are watching. That's why, I watched that ad, bro, and I go, ugh. It was just watching that whole thing was something like a South Park episode. And this right here is not even funny. It's not. This is really embarrassing.
In 2008, we met while working on the Obama-Biden campaign.
Now, this is a man who suffers from ALS. Okay. And they decided to bring him on stage and have him do that. I just don't think that was the right move right there. The one thing that came out of it that was pretty funny in the comment section, though, was Tim Walsh is doing a great job today. Now, I'm laughing at the joke, okay? I'm not laughing at that, man. I have to make sure that's perfectly clear. And I'm going to stop my giggles right now so we don't have the people misrepresenting my intentions right here. You know how people get on the internet. Oh, look at him. He's over there. No, I'm not. Anyhow, they spent most of this convention just demonizing Donald Trump. Quote, Donald Trump would be able to weaponize the Department of Justice and go after his political opponents, is something that this woman said. But who wants to tell her?
Donald Trump would be able to weaponize the Department of Justice to go after his political opponents. He could even turn the FBI into his own personal police force. That is not how it works in America. That's how it works in dictatorships.
These people act like we didn't have Donald Trump as the president already, man. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, you got Kamala out here just flipping this whole thing upside down. Full-blown communist. You know what I mean? She trying to tell y'all, boy. This is exactly what they did. You trying to sit here and say that this is what Donald Trump is going to do, projecting this onto the people, but this is exactly what you guys have done to this man, Donald Trump. It's not rocket science. It's not us eluding some sort of conspiracy. We watched it happen, like with our own two eyes. And it was all at the hands of this man, Joe Biden. I'm just going to play the one clip that I think kind of matters right here. Oh, excuse me. The theme of the night was everybody going off script or the teleprompter messing up. But anyhow, Joe Biden went off script from his teleprompter and stated that pro-Palestine protesters destroying the outside of the DNC convention, quote, have a point, end quote. Yeah, so let's go ahead and check this out. Joe Biden seems to be rebelling, maybe?
And end this war. Those protesters out in the street, they have a point. A lot of innocent people are being killed on both sides.
Joe Biden, huh? I think he just admitted something there. I'm going to leave it to be, though. I don't like really discussing this topic too much for the sake of not knowing the community guidelines centered around it. So I'll just kind of leave it at what we just seen it at and move on. Anyhow, after he went off script, this was the response. What does Kamala have to say about that was the question, but I don't think that she replied. But yeah, let's look at Bill Hemmer.
Two bit of news here. You may not have been able to catch it from watching this speech. He ad-libbed two lines that I think made news. Number one, those protesters outside have a point. And then he went on to say on both sides, he ad-libbed that line. And then he said toward the end, he said, all that talk that I was angry to step down, it's not true. That was not in the prompter either.
I'm just saying, it's tiptoeing the very fine people on both sides. Hoax that they tried to pin against your boy Trump. I don't know, man. The DNC, man, it's just looking horrible. This is the first day. They got Hillary Clinton right here. I don't even know if I want to put her up on here, man. I don't even know if I want to put her up on here. I really don't, but I guess we have to, huh? We have to. My journalistic integrity won't let me not.
Donald Trump fell asleep at his own trial. And when he woke up, he made his own kind of history. The first person to run for president with 34 felony convictions.
These people and their propaganda, all you continue to hear is dictator. He's gonna weaponize the DOJ. You know, you just hearing he's a felon. Oh, he fell asleep at his trial, right? You want to try to coin that because, you know, Sleepy Joe is sleepy. We know, man. The people are not fooled. And this is my wrap up of the DNC for the first day. I don't really care to show or go over anything else, I guess, from this disaster. I'm sure.
Now, this is something that the news wasn't talking about. I didn't see it. Buried it on C-SPAN. Trump leads roundtable with black business owners in Atlanta.
Own a trucking company. And talk about the contrast from, like we said, from the Trump administration versus what you see now.
This was on a small little clip.
The cost of fuel last year, $43,000 in fuel. You know, under the Trump administration previously, that number was like $34,000. Right. You know, so fuel is my biggest expense, and it's hurting the trucking, and a lot of people have the optics of truckers being a big business, you know, but it's small business. Average fleet size is 8 trucks, small business. And it's really strangling the small business owner. You know?
And what about the fact that they want you to go to all electric trucks within a short period of time, and it doesn't work because of many things, but it doesn't work. What about that?
The infrastructure won't support it at all. It's antiquated. There's hardly places for trucks to park, diesel trucks, let alone charge electric trucks. I don't see how that's going to work. And just the cost of it. You know, like I was talking about, California, it was leading this push under CARB, California Air Resource Board.
Right.
Their goal is to ban electric trucks in the state of California, basically to bring the goods in, set up cross-dock operations, and the electric trucks dispersed out through California. And blue states, California's leading the way, but New York, New Jersey, Illinois, they're all starting to go down this same road. And it's just going to drive up costs even more for the consumer.
And the economy just is not the same, and inflation's been eating your heart out, hasn't it?
Eating more than my heart, that's for sure. Yes, feel it.
So sad. Go ahead.
So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thanks. Then I'll pivot over to Carl. Carl, you know, you do a lot of huge projects. Of course, proud of you. In terms of, you remember in the Trump administration everyone used to hear the word permits, procurements, and what did that look like and how much cumbersome and how much time that tied into money of just waiting and this layer and all the bureaucracy. What do you see back then in the Trump administration when it becomes, and we're talking about regulation cuts.
Yeah.
What does that look like now in the Biden-Harris?
So in 2019, 2020, a permit with the government would normally take 72 hours to receive it. So if we went for a permit on the 15th of April, we'll have it, later than the 18th of April, which meant we can bill on mobilization and get paid fairly quick. Now, a permit will take us anywhere from April the 15th to May the 15th. We won't receive it until after the 15th of May, which is too long. It's a month, 30 days. So we can't invoice until June the 1st, which for us, a big difference. We need cash flow. In order to get the cash flow, we need to mobilize, invoice the customer so we can get those receivables. One of the things that's killing us right now is the workman's comp and general liability. I watched it slide up at 25% this year. That's the increase that we're paying this year. Next year it's probably going to be worse. And we're a small business, but not a small business. We currently employ 50 guys. 50. I'm responsible for taking care of 50 individuals.
Right.
Next year, I'm afraid of what that stuff's going to look like when it comes time for the audit.
Well, if we get in, and hopefully we should, all indications are we will, your business is going to be better than ever. We're going to get it turned fast. They're regulating people out of business right now, and I'm hearing it from everybody.
Yeah.
It's a big problem. And the biggest problem is the inflation still. How is inflation affecting your business?
Oh God, it is. It's killing us. It's killing us. It's hard to go back to your customer and increase on them because you're not going to win the job. So you have to eat it and move on. So it's killing your bottom line. The profits, the margins have dropped from when you were in office, 25, 30%. Now we're down to 12, 15. So that's where we are because we have to eat that part of the gas costs.
And does the customer pay for the inflation, or do you pay for it?
We pay for it.
Yeah, sort of both probably, but you pay for it. Yeah.
We can't increase.
We'll get it back. We'll be back where we were, but better.
Right.
No, that's
Thank you. Bruce, go ahead.
Okay, so, and I'm glad you addressed the workman's comp insurance. That was something we talked about. It's big. So I'm going to pivot over to, I know you talk about housing, your real estate guy, some real estate folks in here in terms of what the contrast during the Trump administration, we had 2.5, 2.8 interest rates at 30-year, 15-year rates, et cetera. I'm going to pivot over to my business colleague, Kamala Jones here, who's been in the industry for a long time. I'm sorry, I won't take too long because you don't look like it, but it's been a while. And so during the Trump administration, I know you've sold millions and millions of dollars worth of homes, kudos, in terms of the culture and climate of, let's just say, Black customers that are buying homes versus what you're seeing now with some of that being 8+% and getting harder to qualify. What contrast from then from what you see now as in the real estate business?
Well, you used to be able to, in the Black community, the housing was more affordable.
Right.
Let's just say in the Georgia market,
Right.
they could, purchase something for 250,000. Now something I would say nice for decent family afford is more around 400,000. And the problem that we're seeing is it's not a lot of down payment assistance programs. They need a little bit more help with down payment assistance or something, because we're talking about nurses, people who are what do you call that? The people who that are in the hospital industry. They're
People with good jobs
with good jobs.
and good money, but they still can't afford to have the American dream, can they?
No.
And 4 years ago, that's what they had. They had the American dream.
Right. And the
I got
interest
it.
rates they're just too high. I have a ton of buyers that are in the higher echelon, but nobody is selling their homes because they don't want to give up that 2.5 for,
And they can't get the money anyway. Even if they want to pay the high interest rates, and you can go up to 10 and 11%, they can't get the money anyway. We were at 2.4%. Now you're at 10%, 11%, but you can't get the money. So I guess you're much higher than that. It's terrible. Thank you very much. Very nice.
So we do have a farmer here, second generation, Edna Moses here on my right. And we know about cost of food, et cetera. Everybody feels that. And so Edna, in terms of your farms, your supply food chain, whatever, what did you see from, once again, we're doing the contrast from the Trump administration versus the Biden-Harris as it relates to, your debt service and how you manage it?
Some might go, why even talk about Joe Biden? The guy is on his way out. Let's face it, probably in every sense. Move on, let it be. Now, the simple answer to that is no. You don't let enablers of genocide just walk away with their bloodied hands and pretend it never happened. You hold them to account, and you do that when they're alive, and you do that even when they're long dead. Even if they never face justice, what they did must be understood. Now, we've seen how much of liberal America rehabilitated George W. Bush, going gooey-eyed as he once handed candy to Michelle Obama, acting as though he was morally superior to Donald Trump because he doesn't send mean tweets, wiping away the mass slaughters of Iraq amongst all the other crimes. Well, this matters in the present because Biden will still be president of the United States until the 20th of January 2025, which is nearly 22 weeks away. 22 weeks in which Israel can continue to commit one of the worst crimes of our age. And because of the likely continuity represented by Kamala Harris as vice president until proven otherwise. Now let's listen to Joe Biden at the Democratic National Convention, clearly prepped to try and diffuse the fury amongst so many natural Democratic voters, whipped up because he has armed and actively backed, in every sense, one of the worst atrocities of our age.
A few days ago, I put forward a proposal that brought us closer to doing that than we've done since October 7th. We're working around the clock, my Secretary of State, to prevent a wider war and reunite hostages with their families and surge humanitarian health and food assistance into Gaza now.
You ain't doing nothing.
To end
War criminal.
the civilian suffering of the Palestinian people. And finally deliver a ceasefire and end this war.
You don't give a damn about that. Like all the people outside protesting, y'all.
Those protesters out in the street, they have a point. A lot of innocent people are being killed.
Inside joke. That's their
On
point.
both sides.
Firstly, just a fact check there, as he tries to say that those protesters on the streets may have a point about butchery.
See, he fucked up. He never gonna get away with that both sides shit. That's what they got Trump for saying. Oh, both sides. Now Joe Biden tell both sides. Israel should be asking them. Oh, you saying Hamas was innocent? People should be asking him these questions. You got to stand on that. You saying Hamas is some good people too, right?
That his bloody fingerprints all over. He says a lot of innocent people are being killed on both sides. Now, he knows full well that almost all Israeli civilians killed by Hamas or other Palestinian militants were killed on 7th of October in war crimes, to be clear, as I've always been clear from the very beginning. And he also knows that even if you go by the official death toll, well over 28 times as many Palestinians have been killed, not even taking into account the disparity in population size and therefore the proportions in question. And that official death toll is likely a drastic underestimate. Indeed, one estimate by academic health specialists would mean that around 133 times as many Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli state. Even here, he's being deceptive because the way this is presented gives the impression that there is an ongoing slaughter on both sides taking place. That is absolutely and completely untrue. And it also erases the fact that this entirely one-sided slaughter, which has taken place every single day from the 8th of October last year, is being armed by his administration. You listen to that thinking there's some horrible killing war going on. Somewhere else in the world, the US is just standing aloof from what's happening, looking sadly at it, look at all the death, rather than directly facilitating it. The US administration, Joe Biden's administration, just approved a $20 billion weapons package to Israel a few days ago. Weapons which will be used to kill many more thousands of Palestinians than have already been killed in the first place. But the real lie is this working around the clock to get a ceasefire claim. Now, sometimes you just need a bit of plain speaking. So here goes. That is bullshit, total bullshit. For a start, Joe Biden could end this whole horror show like that, click of his fingers, or rather specifically with a phone call. If US aid stops, Israel's genocide stops. Sometimes things really are that simple. Now let's hear, shall we, from US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and this is following his meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
In a very constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, he confirmed to me that Israel accepts the bridging proposal, that he supports it. It's now incumbent on Hamas to do the same.
That's a lie.
And then the parties, with the help of the mediators, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, have to come together and
cynical, man.
Complete the process.
This man knows damn well Israel, Netanyahu don't accept no ceasefire. Hamas done accepted it over and over and over. But what he doing is saying he went to Israel and said, okay, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel, they said they accept this and that's up to Hamas. Oh, all of a sudden where the Democrats having a convention where the protesters out there going crazy over Palestine. Now you're saying it's a ceasefire on the table. Now we need y'all just go home, don't protest, don't embarrass us in front of the world, don't burn nothing, don't loot, don't riot, don't make us look like we undemocratic. We gotta get the police to beat y'all, lying to people, pretending like it's a ceasefire on the table. These are cold-blooded killers. It's all lies, and he made it up.
Of reaching clear understandings about how they'll implement the commitments that they've made under this agreement. But the next important step is for Hamas to say yes, and then in the coming days, for all of the expert negotiators to get together to work on clear understandings
in the coming days. Oh, you mean after y'all get out of town or Chicago and 100,000 protesters, they not there, then you act like y'all working on these people sick, man. All so the Democrats can have a convention smoothly. But I'm gonna tell you, the Palestinians on the other side begging, pleading. I'm talking about the regular civilians. Hamas, they ready to go. The regular civilians who dying every day, they hanging on to every word the great white father come out and say, regardless if they hate the U.S. guts, they know if the U.S. come out, they can end this at any time. So when this man come out on behalf of the U.S. saying, yeah, look, Israel has agreed, it's a lot of mothers think, okay, my kids ain't gonna be killed tomorrow. A lot of elderly people think, okay, I won't have to be ran from one village to another. But the whole time, that's a lie. He's making this up all for political reasons, and they can have a smooth DNC. That's disgusting. He's a war criminal.
Implementing the agreement.
Firstly, funny, isn't it, that you don't hear Netanyahu saying any of this? Why isn't it coming from his lips? Is Blinken now his spokesperson? But then you read what news outlet Axios says, which is that statement baffled some Israeli officials who told Axios that Netanyahu's hard lines are actually making a deal much harder to reach. Axios also report Netanyahu endorsed the US proposal, which incorporated several of his updated demands, knowing Hamas would reject it, senior Israeli officials tell Axios. Now, wait till you hear what this deal is.
Netanyahu said, okay, I accept the deal if Hamas surrender, lay down their arms, all of them turn themselves in, give us all their weapons, show us where all their tunnels at. Preposterous type shit. This is crazy.
Actually is. It really is quite something. More specifically, Hamas objects to the fact that the proposal doesn't include a permanent ceasefire or comprehensive Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. Yeah, okay, let's just be clear. This isn't a ceasefire. This would mean pausing the slaughter for a few weeks, exchanging some hostages, and then continuing the mass slaughter until an endpoint defined by Hamas as until Hamas is entirely defeated, which is completely impossible for many reasons, one of them being a state engaged in a genocidal onslaught will mean enraged and traumatized survivors will keep taking up arms, however many existing militants you kill, and another being that Israel defines...
don't care, because what people don't understand is, okay, you had 2.5 million Palestinians before this happened. For maybe 60,000 is dead. You got tens of thousands under the rubble. You have a large percentage of a civilization has been murdered. Now, they want to drag it out so they can continue to murder.
Finds Hamas in a completely all-encompassing way, which allows for, well, genocide. Now, it goes on, this deal. It would also not allow the free movement of civilians from southern Gaza to the north because it endorses Netanyahu's demand for control of the Netzarim corridor. So, permanently dividing what is already a tiny strip of land the size of East London, with a pre-war population of 2.2, 2.3 million, into a northern and a southern zone with much of the north depopulated and the population desperate, homeless, concentrated in a devastated southern zone. Weird how they're not agreeing to that one, isn't it? And then it goes on. The proposal would also give Israel control of the Rafah crossing and the Philadelphia corridor along the Egypt-Gaza border, as Netanyahu has demanded. Now, Hamas said Netanyahu also reversed previous concessions and set new conditions in the prisoner exchange process. So, permanent total control of a divided Gaza by Israel as it fights a forever war. I cannot believe Hamas is not agreeing to this deal. I would also note the Israeli state is not getting its hostages back alive like this. And we should always be clear that taking civilians as hostages, whoever does it, is a grave war crime. 6 Israeli hostages who should never have been taken, well, their bodies have been retrieved by the IDF, all of them killed. And as per Israeli news sources, the initial assessment is they suffocated in tunnels because of gas from an Israeli army attack. Hideous. And again, underlines that the mass slaughter of Gaza includes the mass slaughter of Israeli hostages by Israeli armed forces. Those remaining hostages will only be returned alive with an actual permanent ceasefire deal, but that is too late, much too late for so many of those hostages. Now, let's finally listen to a former negotiator for Israel, Daniel Levy, who is a brilliant analyst who I've interviewed on this channel.
Wishful thinking is not a policy. Spin is not a policy, but it can get you through news cycles. So the BBC and much of the American and other Western media are reporting in optimistic ways that maybe there's a deal being done because that's what US officialdom is telling them. But I can tell you that in the region, no one is buying it. Your own correspondent, of course, and the way you've said it is to put skepticism on this. But if they can just get through, muddle through Chicago, hopefully muddle through an election season as they see it, and this isn't just about words, but what they're doing is they're saying to the Iranian axis, you are going to undermine this, and using that time in order to place further military assets in the region. So what you have is a US that is trying to make sure that its ally Israel continues to have freedom of operation. Interestingly, the Israeli security establishment is background briefing that Netanyahu is still not giving the kind of mandate to negotiators that could bring a deal. The hostage families in Israel are out briefing that they don't trust the prime minister. One of the people found recovered bodies today, one understands, could have been part of an earlier deal had Netanyahu agreed to it. This is, unfortunately, the result of the Israeli system being treated with an impunity, not being held accountable to what it's doing, because, of course, Hamas should not be holding these Israeli civilians. That's a crime. Israel should not be conducting the actions which have led to arrest warrant requests at the International Criminal Court, have led to urgent measures being called for by the International Court of Justice because of plausible genocide. None of these things should be happening.
Understood.
But Prime Minister Netanyahu is able to carry on because the US runs cover. And indeed, the US is about to, it seems, place the blame again at Hamas's door when that does not accord with the facts.
So this is all a sham to help the Democratic Party get through the elections and shore up Israel's regional vote. As he says, the Israeli system enjoys impunity, and this is all being set up so Hamas is presented as being to blame, when, as he says, that does not accord with the facts. Look, I get it, guys. I get the desperation to stop Donald Trump. I get the specific threat he poses to an already heavily caveated US democracy. I get the plausible threat of civil war in the United States. I get what a menace Trump also represents to the Palestinian people. But some leverage has to be brought to bear here, because what actual tangible evidence is there that Kamala Harris is going to stop Israel's genocide, let alone Joe Biden, given he has months still in office in which, as things stand, tens of thousands of more people are set to be killed. In any case, Biden is lying. Don't believe him. Don't let him get away with it. Please like and subscribe.
As of August 21, 2024, the situation of the armed forces of Ukraine continues to deteriorate rapidly, not only in the Donbass, but also in the Kursk region. So, a few minutes ago, many reputable war correspondents officially reported that over the past day, the Russian armed forces had established control over 3 strategically important settlements in the Pokrovsk direction of the front. In particular, it is reported that under the onslaught of Russian troops, the armed forces of Ukraine were forced to flee from such settlements as Krasny Yar, Mezovoy, and Kamyshevka. Over the past day, the total advance of the Russian army in this direction of the front was 20 kilometers. According to war correspondents, Russian troops have already come close to the outskirts of one of the most important cities in Donbass, Pokrovsk. It is reported that as of August 21, 2024, the Russian army is located only 10 kilometers from the eastern outskirts of this strategically important city, the capture of which will lead to the final defeat of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Donbass.
Mediation for NATO and Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Zelensky's Kursk adventure is rapidly turning into the most terrible meat grinder for the Ukrainian army, where units of the armed forces of Ukraine lose several hundred soldiers and dozens of heavy equipment every day. The huge number of corpses of Ukrainian soldiers and foreign mercenaries in the Kursk forests scares even the toughest and most battle-hardened Ukrainian nationalists. Against this backdrop, insiders in Kyiv claim that the discontent of the Ukrainian political elites about the offensive of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Kursk region is growing rapidly. In particular, many influential Ukrainian politicians began to accuse Zelensky of the fact that the Ukrainian armed forces are losing hundreds of their best and most motivated soldiers in the Kursk region every day. Even the mayor of Lviv, Andriy Sadovy, said that the armed forces of Ukraine are paying the heaviest price in the Kursk region. He made this statement against the background of the central cemetery, where there are no more places for burials of Ukrainian soldiers, whose corpses continue to arrive in Lviv again and again. According to the Russian military, in the Kursk region, the armed forces of Ukraine are losing a huge number of their best and most motivated soldiers, whose age does not exceed 30-35 years. War correspondents also confirmed the words of the Russian military. According to them, in the Kursk region, there are professional soldiers in the armed forces of Ukraine no older than 35 years, in very good physical shape. Now it becomes clear why many in Kyiv are dissatisfied with Zelensky's adventure in the Kursk region. The fact is that Russian troops not only stopped the offensive of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Kursk region, but also continued to destroy thousands of the best, combat-ready, and most motivated Ukrainian soldiers, armed with the best Western military equipment. The influential British newspaper, The Guardian, also recognized the heavy losses of the armed forces of Ukraine in manpower. According to experts of this newspaper, after 10 days of the offensive of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Kursk region, the Ukrainian army began to experience an acute shortage of personnel. British experts admitted that the losses of the Ukrainian army in manpower far exceeded the estimated figures of the Ukrainian High Military Command. In addition, the armed forces of Ukraine also failed to align the flanks in the south and north of the Koronivo direction, and the west and east of the village of Kauchika. All this has led to the fact that the front for the Ukrainian army has significantly stretched. And this factor is very unprofitable for the Ukrainian army, especially against the backdrop of an acute shortage of manpower. As a result, the Ukrainian armed forces are now trying to destroy all bridges in the Kursk region, in order to gain time and hold territories in this region for as long as possible. However, despite this, the armed forces of Ukraine continue to lose captured settlements. So, it became known that on August 20, 2024, the fighters of the grouping of troops under the designation Sever, together with the Marines of the 810th Brigade of the Black Sea Fleet, knocked out units of the armed forces of Ukraine from the settlement of Safanovka. Against this backdrop, the commander of Spetsnaz Akhmat, General Avdiy Aladanov, made another loud statement. In particular, during an interview with Chinese journalists, he officially stated that the fighting in the Kursk region would end within 60-90 days, with the complete victory of the Russian army. Moreover, he also noted that within 60-90 days, a special military operation is also likely to end with the unconditional surrender of the Kyiv regime. I think that in the next 60-90 days, Russian troops will be victorious in the Kursk region and the entire special military operation zone, General Avdiy Aladanov said. Let me remind you that this is not the first time that General Avdiy Aladanov has announced that a special military operation will end this year with a complete victory for Russia. In early July, he officially stated that all the things going on the battlefield indicated that the armed forces of Ukraine had already lost the war. Back then, the general noted that the Kyiv regime is in a state of agony, rushing into various adventures, in order to prolong its existence. At the same time, he noted that nothing could save the Kyiv regime anymore, and that Ukraine would soon be completely liberated from nationalists and pro-Western forces.
There's nothing they can do. but surrender. NATO can't do nothing but surrender.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation showed footage of the destruction of the command post and weapons depot of the elite 47th Brigade under the designation Magura in the city of Glukov, Sumy region. Let me remind you that this elite brigade was created by the leadership of NATO and the Pentagon in January 2023. It is noteworthy that the command staff of this brigade is subordinate only to the Pentagon and NATO generals. It is reported that the command post and weapons depot of this elite brigade were destroyed at night, with the help of guided aerial bombs of the Fab family.
See,
sources in the Russian...
when Russia say they wiped out their generals and all that type of shit, the media don't want to talk about it. Then Russia released a video say, well, hey, this is where your generals is at right here. This is where your elite brigade with command post was at right here. Putin said he tired of playing with these people. This is where they was at. So Zelensky coked up Zelensky. You can't lie. Zelensky on that fentanyl too. They gave him that cut fentanyl. That's why they went crazy. You can't lie and say it didn't happen. See, they don't want this type. I'm gonna have to email this to CNN and MSNBC. If they want some real war footage instead of that make-believe crap that they talk about Russia is being invaded. Oh yeah, they fell for a trap.
Russian military department said that as a result of this attack, the command staff and military personnel of this brigade were destroyed, among whom were also representatives of NATO army countries.
Oh man, that's the roughest brigade right there. That's the toughest one, the 47. That's the neo-Nazi brigade, man. That's the got the best weapons, the most advanced this, most advanced that. Oh yeah, they command staff. Oh, y'all commanding that invasion of Russia? Well, y'all not here no more.
In addition, the Russian military department noted that the NATO leadership was preparing to throw this elite brigade into the Kursk region to support the units of the armed forces of Ukraine. However, the professional actions of the Russian military intelligence did not allow the NATO generals to carry out their plans.
Now, there's something else that's supposed to be on all the news stations. I didn't know this hero right here, ex-U.S. Air Force pilot, joins Russian forces, defects to serve Putin's agenda in Ukraine, will defects to fight on the right side of history because he don't like Nazis and he don't want white supremacists who say they fight on behalf of the white race. Remember, that's what Ukrainian neo-Nazis, they said. Well, here goes the hero. Oh, MSNBC, they won't talk about this. U.S. Air Force pilot, good. Y'all trained him real good. Now you can tell Russia all about y'all training to help defeat y'all.
So I'm Will. I'm from Massachusetts, Boston.
He's a hero.
It's a city, yeah. The capital of the state, the capital of Massachusetts. That's right, yeah. My call sign, +9, Boston. Yeah, it's where I'm from, so I said, why not? I'll go with it. Yeah, the guys get a laugh out of it. They get a kick out of it, yeah. Well, we were sitting down and trying to figure out what my passive noise should be, and one of them said, oh, you're from Boston. It should be Boston. I was like, okay, no, I like it. Yeah, so like I said, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I served 10 years in the U.S. Air Force, some years in the Massachusetts Air National Guard, and I did 2 years as a city councilor. And when I got involved in politics, I zoomed out into the international.
2 years as a city council member. So he went to serve the community. And then he finna say he started taking a look at geopolitics like we doing. And then he said, whoa, wait a minute, and put his skills to work. This is real. This is legendary, We have to talk about this brave fighter right here, who many American soldiers went to go fight with the neo-Nazis. You see what I'm saying? They despicable. They fight. They the fascists. This man went to go fight against the fascists. And the only people fighting against the fascists is the Russians right now.
Level of politics. And you really kind of stop and pause and think about what's going on here. And, you feel like you have to do something about it. So I came in January, I spent some time in Moscow. Then I came to Donetsk. I was in contact with some of the folks in Piatnashka, the International Brigade in Donetsk, and I served there for 3 months. And then after that, I had some friends that went on to serve with the Ministry of Defense, the 137th Brigade, where we're here. And they said, well, come on, it's great. And so I decided to join them, and here we are. You said good skill. I didn't say it. Yeah, no, I had training. I had academic training. I was an E6, it's a tech sergeant. My job was air-based defense. It's military, police, security forces. We deal with things like drones and other things, other problems, internal, external. And yeah, I've definitely been able to apply some of those skills, leadership skills as well here. Yeah, well, I mean, look, I've heard that question.
This dude know exactly how NATO trained the Ukrainians and their techniques. And he telling the Russians. He was a pilot. Putin was smart. Okay, you need to be over the drone warfare because see, they already wiped out the Ukrainian Air Force, but this drone warfare is a new warfare that need to be mastered. So he giving them tips on how to defeat NATO's electronic warfare, all that good shit, man. This was a golden pick right here, defecting over there to Russian side. I know the U.S. is hot.
Question come up a lot, and what I say to that is the United States and Russia are not at war. The United States has done things that are very provocative, very bad. It's been involved in other people's politics, other nations' interests, and should not be doing that. I always say, and Sergei Lavrov said this a couple of weeks ago, I think that the country is ran by different people than the people that live in the country and feel a different way. I think it's important we've got an election coming up in the United States. I think it's important for people to just, do their own research and kind of read about things from independent news outlets and understand what's really going on here. Understand that this started back in 2014 with our politicians coming down here and saying all sorts of different things and making all sorts of different promises. And this doesn't represent the true interests of the American people. It's not, what benefit is it for the United States to have multi-million-dollar tanks rolling down here trying to kill people, missiles firing at a beach of innocent people? What interest is that? F-16s, there's no interest to that. Our country's trillions of dollars in debt. Our country's collapsing. It's falling apart. And, it's just not, in my opinion, representative of the real interests of the American people. So when I hear that question, I don't consider myself a traitor. The United States and Russia aren't at war.
No traitor.
And, in the
future, I ain't no traitor. See, the U.S. probably fighting with the Russians to defeat fascists, and defeat the Zionist small hats. They're supposed to be coming together, but the Zionist small hats have a stranglehold on our government, and they run everything,
Future, I think that the people that caused this in my country should be held responsible for what they've done, and we can have some sort of friendship between Russia and the United States. Yeah, of course. I mean, I've worked downrange with these guys, like we say in the U.S. military on the front, and I absolutely trust them to have my back 100%. And I know for a fact that they trust me as well. And what I always tell people is, because this is a question that comes up in the U.S. military. It's about the people that you're with. It's about the people that you're serving with. Because this isn't, this is, to be realistic, this is a dangerous situation. We're all down here serving, we're doing our job. But what makes it or breaks it is the people that you're with. And these guys have been great. They speak English. They're professionals. They help you when you need it. If I don't have something or if I don't understand something, they're like, "Oh, boss, like no problem, normal." See how to show. They teach me words. They teach me Russian. They help me to deal with, my girlfriend. Then they help me to navigate, all the complexities and the cultural differences. And again, it's about the people that you're here with, and I couldn't pick a better group of people to be here with.
Yeah, we know Ukraine put him on the hit list. CIA probably want to torture him. The news media don't want to talk about that man right there is on the front line. One second, y'all.
He's done negotiating with Ukraine. Can you help us unpack all of these big movements over the past 24 hours?
Well, first of all, I think Biden's
ask former UN weapons inspector, former U.S. Marine Scott Ritter, who has, probably the most acute understanding of what's going on there, better than just about anyone. Scott, great to see you, and welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
So when you heard President Biden last night say, we're going to stand with Ukraine until the end, that Vladimir Putin thought he would just walk all over Ukraine within a few months, but 3 years later, Ukraine is still free thanks to NATO weapons, U.S. monies flowing into Ukraine. And now we learned Vladimir Putin saying he's done negotiating with Ukraine. Can you help us unpack all of these big movements over the past 24 hours?
Well, first of all, I think Biden's statements reflect the ignorance of not only the man, Joe Biden, but of the U.S. government, and indeed, I would say the United States as a whole, about Russia, Ukraine, and this conflict. The irony is the United States took away my passport and denied me the ability to go back to Russia for a third time in a span of a year. Why would I dare travel to Russia? Perhaps to learn more about the Russian people, the Russian nation, what motivates Russia, how they think, what the Russian soul is, what the Russian perspective is. Important things if you're going to take a look at the broader picture of what the Russian objective in Ukraine is. You see, for people like Biden, people in the U.S. government, the American people, we only think in terms of, good versus evil, black versus white. We are unable to comprehend that this conflict between Russia and Ukraine is between brothers, that this is very much a civil war that's brought on not because of differences of opinion of the brothers themselves, but that one brother was pushed by outside powers to behave aggressively against the other brother, compelling that brother to respond. This is not your normal conflict. To say you stand by Ukraine to the end shows an absolute ignorance of what Ukraine is, what Ukraine really is. And that is an extension of a larger Slavic nation united by language, cultural history, religion. So to say we stand with them to the end means what? It means that we're going to sit by and watch them die, because that's what the end is, the death of Ukraine. And Biden knows this. Biden has watched his policies be translated into hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainian soldiers, tens of millions of displaced Ukrainian civilians, trillions of dollars of damage to the Ukrainian economy, and now a situation where there was once hope for peace. I just want to remind everybody that while Biden's narrative of Russia seeking to conquer Kiev in days may play well to an ignorant American audience, it's not reflective of the reality. Russia was always looking for a peaceful outcome. It was compelled to initiate what it calls a special military operation, which was a joint collective security action to prevent Ukraine from attacking the Russian people of Donbass. But the purpose wasn't to occupy Kiev, but rather to compel Kiev to the negotiating table, which 6 days later Kiev went. And less than a month later, or a little bit more than a month later, they had a viable peace agreement. The Istanbul Communique, 1 April 2022, could have brought an end to this war. The war wasn't extended because of Putin's ambitions. The war was extended because the United States refused to allow Ukraine to have a peaceful outcome, because we are not friends of Ukraine. That's the other irony here. Biden acting as if America is Ukraine's friend. We are not the friend of Ukraine. We view Ukraine as a tool of a larger objective of destroying Russia. And the second that tool gets blunted, destroyed, damaged, rather than repairing it, we throw it to the side. And that's what we're in the process of doing right now, throwing Ukraine to the side. The objective of the United States to bring down Russia has failed. If anything, this conflict has strengthened Russia. We know it's strengthened Russia militarily. The Russian army today is bigger, stronger, more capable than it was when this conflict started. Russian defense industry is outproducing the collective West by 1.5 times. The West is collapsing. The German economy is such that they cannot continue to fund Ukraine or the German military, and the same holds true for almost the rest of Europe as a whole. So, what Biden is talking about is just pure bloodlust, pure fantasy. And the saddest thing is that those Americans in the audience that were cheering him were buying into this, while the Ukrainians that they pretend to support continue to die.
What happens to Ukraine now? Vladimir Putin saying he's done negotiating. There's no more negotiating. Well, what does that look like then? Does it lead to a takeover of Kiev? Where do you see this going from Putin's perspective?
I've asked this question to a number of Russians trying to elicit the response. And they always refer me back to Vladimir Putin's words before putting their own interpretation on this. When this conflict started, Vladimir Putin gave a speech to the world, to the Russian people, to the people of Ukraine, about why Russia was engaged in this. And I remember a lot of so-called Russian experts in the West were poo-pooing this speech, ridiculous Russian propaganda, et cetera, especially when Putin talked about the history of Ukraine, or more specifically, the lack of history of Ukraine. And he called Ukraine a creation of Vladimir Lenin, Lenin's mistake. I heard those words today, I heard them yesterday, and I've heard them before when I talked to people about what the future of Ukraine is. They said that Russia will correct Lenin's mistake. And I said, well, what does that mean? It means that Ukraine didn't exist before Lenin created it. Russia will correct Lenin's mistake.
This is what they asked.
The implication is that Ukraine will not exist when this war is over. Now, whether or not that translates into actual Russian policy has yet to be seen. But Vladimir Putin is a man who is very careful in his use of words. And by giving voice to the artificiality of the Ukrainian state, when he says that there will be no negotiations with Ukraine going forward, the implications of that could be that there will be no Ukraine going forward. And this opinion is held by members of the Russian Duma, actively involved in Russian politics. This is held by serving Russian officers. It doesn't automatically mean that their personal opinion becomes policy, but these are the people who advise Vladimir Putin and his inner circle. So Zelensky may have made a mistake that is fatal to the modern nation state of Ukraine by going into Kursk. He may have, in fact, sealed the fate of Ukraine insofar as that when this war ends, and it will end, there will be no Ukraine.
What does NATO do then? Will NATO sort of sit back and allow that to happen? Do they have any choice in the matter? You hear Biden last night, you hear all the neocons and all the war hawks, the war pigs, clearly, don't seem like they're going to want to let that happen. Where do you see NATO going then?
Well, NATO really doesn't have any choice. The conventional military capacity of NATO to wage ground conflict against Russia is close to nil. It's a completely different war that's being fought right now, one that NATO isn't prepared or organized to fight. If you take a NATO formation, a division, a corps, and you advance it against their Russian counterparts, this isn't going to be old doctrinal warfare. They're going to be hit with swarms of drones that they don't have a defense for. All of their equipment will be destroyed within a 24-hour period. Their communications will be jammed. Their troops operating in large formations will be devastated by these small FPV drones. As the troops break up into smaller units, they'll be hunted down by swarms of FPV drones that NATO has no defense for. NATO simply can't sustain, which means NATO will then seek to bring about a strategic, side to this fight, deep strikes into Russia to punish Russia. And again, what I've been told, and I had a very, very chilling conversation today, just an hour before this, apparently the Russian leadership has made a decision that it will not sit back and allow NATO the opportunity to carry out deep strikes against Russia. That if it gets to the point where Russia believes that NATO is preparing such strikes, Russia will react preemptively, and the preemption will be decisive and terminal for many European nations. In short, Russia will launch a preemptive nuclear strike against Europe that destroys entire nation states and then dare the United States to do something about it. Again, this isn't the policy of Vladimir Putin. This is the policy as articulated by people who are in the Russian government and who advise the Russian president. It scared the living dog poop out of me, and I hope it scares the dog poop out of every person that's listening to this broadcast.
I mean, for something to scare you, that's chilling. I mean, it's terrifying. And to think that they're going to continue to poke this bear and want to see. I mean, I just don't understand what their end game is. Where if how does NATO think that they're going to solve this unless they completely step back from this? We spoke to a source, a high-ranking Russian general as well in the Kursk region, and a friend and source of the show, saying that he's sort of pleading with the Americans right now to stop this right now, because this will be World War III and nuclear war. This coming from a Russian general on the front lines. This is going to lead to nuclear war. When you're hearing it, your sources, our sources, saying the same thing.
Russia.
Well, I mean, that's the direction we're heading. And what is the American response? To send the FBI into my house to threaten me under the Foreign Agent Registration Act for daring give voice to these Russian voices. Do they want the Russian voices silenced? Do they want the American people ignorant? I mean, I always, people are like, well, Scott, you're a little too close to this subject. You're taking it too personal. I spoke out against the war in Iraq in 2002, 2003. In doing so, I traveled to Iraq many times. I met with the Iraqi government. I interviewed senior Iraqi officials. I made a documentary film with the assistance of the Iraqi government, not because I was a servant of the Iraqi government or a foreign agent, because I was trying to stop a war that didn't need to be fought, that was being sold to the American people on a lie. Today, I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to stop a nuclear war between the United States and Russia. And in order to empower my desire, I seek to learn more about Russia, to get insights into the Russians so I can better explain to an American audience where the Russians are coming from. And for this, I'm considered to be a foreign agent. The American government is stifling free speech, and the consequences of that is to sustain a level of ignorance about the American people that make them powerless to stand up to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and others when they articulate the continuation of these policies, which your Russian source said, if they're not stopped, will lead to war. We're on a slippery slope to hell, and all the United States government is doing is pouring Vaseline on it.
Yeah, and then Joe Biden wants to get up there and warn us all that if Donald Trump becomes president, he might weaponize the Department of Justice and use the FBI to go after political adversaries. I mean, I almost laughed and fell out of my chair when I heard him say that. You're literally watching it happening right now, using the Department of Justice to go after individuals like you who are trying to prevent a nuclear war. This is the madness that we're in right now. Remember when the Democrats used to be the party of peace and anti-war? Man, that was a long time ago. Scott Ritter, we appreciate you. Our audience appreciates you.
With his latest incursion into Russia, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is dogging the West, insulting them, saying they're not giving him enough stuff, and that, by the way, you're pretty naive for even worrying about what Russia's going to do because Russia's so weak. Is that the case? Is Russia really weak, and is Ukraine now in the driver's seat? Because a lot of people are saying that. Well, we have nobody better than Colonel Doug McGregor, CEO of Our Country, Our Choice, a highly decorated combat veteran and just all-around smart guy to help us unpack that. Doug, welcome back to the show.
Happy to be with you.
Well, you may not have a lot of thoughts on this subject. I don't know what you may be thinking, but I just want to get into some of this because there's just been some really crazy stuff. And just for those who may not have seen, I want to just real quick show the map of what's been going on when we say that they've made an incursion into Russia. It sounds like they've invaded the country, but when you look at this map, like the Institute for the Study of War, which of course has terrible analysis but really good maps. When you look at this map, it looks like, wow, that's a lot of territory. There's allegedly like up to several hundred square kilometers. It sounds a lot, but when you look at that lower right-hand corner and you see that the area of detail of the map, it's almost so small it doesn't show up. So it's relatively small in strategic terms, even operational terms, but you can't dismiss it. So it has been some fairly embarrassing, I think, for the Russian side. Now, I wonder, first of all, before I even get into some of the details, just what are your thoughts on the fact that Ukraine was able to pull off this much, and what does it actually mean?
I'm not surprised that they found a hole in the border area, and it's not really a hole. You know, this is a border of about 1,000 kilometers, and much of it, this is, in other words, between Ukraine and Russia, much of it is densely forested with rivers, hills, and there are many areas in Ukraine that simply don't have very many people living in them. Most of the population in Russia and Ukraine is concentrated, frankly, in the larger cities. Between the cities, the roads and bridges and so forth aren't always the best, but there are actually relatively few villages. In this particular area where they chose to penetrate, there was almost no one. And I think they had perhaps 50 policemen that were stationed in the area. So it was easy to penetrate, but they weren't able to achieve their objective. And their objective, as you know, was to reach Kursk and the Kursk nuclear power plant, ostensibly to capture it and hold it as a bargaining chip, presumably because the Russians have controlled the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant almost from the beginning of the war. And the Ukrainians thought that they could capture this thing and they might be able to make some capital out of it, or worse, they could cause an accident that would do enormous damage. In any case, they got about 25 miles and were stopped dead in their tracks as the Russians began assembling strike forces as well as maneuver forces to stop them.
Now, it's interesting in terms of what has happened, because this has been portrayed as a big embarrassment for the Russian side. And I think to a certain extent it probably is. But the Western media especially has been hyping this up, that this has changed the nature of the war. Now Russia's on its back foot, and there's actually people suggesting that Putin may now be forced to make a negotiated settlement because of this small incursion. Number one, on the surface of it, it just seems absurd in a 2.5-year war for one moment like this for people to think anything's going to happen. But part of that is fed because of Volodymyr Zelensky, who the New York Times today published a part of a speech that he gave to a bunch of ambassadors to Ukraine, where he is basically saying the West and saying, hey, you guys are naive. In fact, this article, which came out just a couple of hours ago, says the whole naive, illusory concept of so-called red lines regarding Russia, which dominated the assessment of the war by some partners, has crumbled, past tense, these days somewhere near Sudzha. Mr. Zelensky told the Ukrainian ambassadors, Russia's slow response to Ukraine's incursion should signal to the world that Russia is not the fearsome superpower it once appeared to be. Mr. Zelensky noted it is time when the West is shredding its last and very naive illusions about Russia. He went on to say, also echoing something he wrote yesterday that was published in Politico, where he said, hey, fork over the weapons, man. We're doing great on all fronts, but you guys need to give us the weapons faster. And then he called out the United States, United Kingdom, and France by name and said, hey, man, let's go ponying up. I guess I just wonder, first of all, Doug, I guess your analysis of what Zelensky could be thinking, and what does he think he's going to get accomplished by this?
Is born every minute. And I think that Mr. Zelensky is very much in the Barnum category. He realizes he's dealing with a lot of suckers in the West, at least in part because, as Mike Benz and others have taught us, we're not getting the truth in the West about anything regarding Ukraine, or for that matter, anything that our respective governments don't want us to hear. And right now in Europe, as well as in the United States, we have official narratives that are picked up by the mainstream media and then essentially disseminated without question. And they're almost all false. There's very little truth in any of them. That's certainly the case here. Let's look at what has actually happened. The total number of forces that were involved in this on the Ukrainian side turned out to be about 12,000. Initially, 1,000 went in. They discovered how light the resistance was, and they poured in an additional 11,000 troops. Right now, we estimate that close to 3,500 to 4,000 have been killed or wounded. We now know that all of the heavy equipment, tanks, artillery, radars, missiles, everything that they brought with them has been destroyed. Most of it by Iskander missiles, a tactical ballistic missile system the Russians employ that carries about a 1,200-pound warhead, different kinds of warheads for different purposes, including fuel-air explosive. These have annihilated all of the heavy equipment. At the same time, they moved to the area a number of Chechen forces on one side, Wagner military types on the other, and then the so-called Russian Volunteer Corps. They have cut the remaining Ukrainian troops off from their route that they were going to try to use to get back into Ukraine. So now, whatever is left of that 12,000, which is probably 4,000 or 5,000 uninjured with others scattered, is fighting for its very life as it's being systematically annihilated with strikes and maneuver forces. So this thing was a debacle. It was a catastrophe because they used whatever new equipment they had, and all of that is virtually gone right now. The sad part is they used a lot of Western equipment, including British tanks, Bradleys. I don't know if there were any more German Leopards in it, but of course this leaves the Russians with a very bad taste in their mouth. And as I'm sure you're aware, they showed some Ukrainian soldiers pretending to be German soldiers in the Second World War, running around with German helmets, making stupid comments in German to local Russian citizens. All of this is sort of spitting in the face, in the eyes of the Russian people and the Russian state. Now, what does this mean? It means that they've lost most of these people and all of this equipment. Does it do anything militarily for Ukraine? Nothing. In fact, it weakens Ukraine even more than it is already weakened. But something else very dangerous has occurred. I just sat with someone who lived in Russia for 15 years, had a relatively fresh perspective on all of this. This particular lady told me that the Russian population is now united in a way that no one has seen in decades. Remember that within Russia itself, there are about 174 different ethnic groups. We find that hard to comprehend, but there are many Mongolian, Tartar, Turkic peoples who have very distinct identities, rich histories, extensive cultural foundations that are part of Russia simply because there were very few of them. And when the final borders were drawn, they happened to be inside Russia. The Russians have treated them well. And Mr. Putin has been extremely careful to ensure that all of these people have equal rights before the law, which of course is one of the reasons that he took the Russian army into eastern Ukraine to begin with, to make sure that the Russian citizens living on Ukrainian soil would also be treated equally. Of course, that turned out to be a farce. And as a result, he's had to stay where he is and protect the Russians that live inside Ukraine. But something else has happened now, and that is that this population in Russia is enraged, furious, much more enraged and furious than people in the West understand. And they are literally publicly calling for President Putin to march west and essentially cross the river, smash whatever is in Ukraine and regain complete control of it, which frankly is something that President Putin doesn't want to do. He never has. He was ever only interested in the Russians who were living inside Ukraine and ensuring that they would not be brutalized or mistreated. Unfortunately, we have a situation now where the population says that's obviously not enough. We'll have no peace. There will be no sleep at night as long as Western Ukraine remains a permanent source of conflict and hostility to Russia. So what we've done, I think, is awaken a beast, a very serious beast that we grossly underestimated from the beginning. We don't understand that one of the reasons Russian forces have moved so deliberately was not just because they wanted to avoid unnecessary casualties. They never really wanted to go any further than they had to liberate the Russians. Secondly, they don't want to rule or govern or control Ukrainians. They're not fools. They want the Ukrainians to govern themselves. They simply want the place to be neutral and not a threat to Russia, which we have obviously fought against almost from the very beginning, stupidly.
And you know, Doug, I think it's really telling that on I think right before our D-Day celebrations, Putin came out and offered one more, which no one really thought the West would take, but I think he just said this is basically a ultimatum or last chance opportunity at a negotiated settlement. He said he would settle for the 4 oblasts as long as the Ukraine side withdrew out of that, et cetera. And that was, worse than the one from April of 2022. But now then, once this incursion happened, I think it was the deputy chief of the UN mission for the Russian side said that's now off the table. There is nothing else that we're going to talk about except for military victory. And I've heard that from others. So it seems to support what you're saying, that this incursion not only will not harm Russia, but it will eventually harm Ukraine even more.
Well, I think 2 things we have to keep in mind. First of all, contrary to whatever Mr. Zelensky says publicly, privately, we know his bags are packed. He's moved his billions into bank accounts in places like Cyprus, Albania, Switzerland. He's bought estates in Italy. He's got a place here in Florida, where not far from where I am in Orlando. He's ready to go. And as soon as it becomes obvious to him that the Russians are advancing on him, he's going to be on a plane, and he'll probably pack that with whatever cash is left, just as we saw in Afghanistan. Some of your viewers will remember that people left Afghanistan and that corrupt government with carloads of U.S. cash. I think you're going to see something very similar when the time comes with Mr. Zelensky. That is, of course, if the Ukrainians, who are increasingly sick of him, contrary to what we're told in the mainstream media, don't bump him off, which I think is a real possibility. In fact, it may be Ukrainian soldiers who have been paying a horrible price in this war that eventually dispose of him. But there's something else that the audience needs to understand. The Germans in particular, I know the Germans overwhelmingly want nothing to do with a war against Russia. Contrary to what people have said, they are absolutely not Nazis. They're not interested in that. If anybody doesn't want anything to do with National Socialism and Nazism, it's the Germans. True for the Austrians. It's true, as far as I can tell, with everybody. So I think it's time for the governments in Germany and other countries to be removed. And the electorates have to stand up. They have to stand up to these terrible, corrupt governments that have been proselytizing for us, pushing lies and bad policies on our behalf, and get rid of them. Because if they don't, they could end up at the other end of an unfortunate accident that could result in more destruction for Europe. Because I think the Russians have really had it. Their patience is worn thin. Now I think you're going to see what everybody talked about as being inevitable, which never was. The Russians will come forward and smash these people once and for all.
Yeah, all the evidence corroborates what you were saying there. It has from the beginning that Putin was always looking for a negotiated settlement, but that does appear to have changed right now. And I wonder if you could touch on one other aspect of this. You said at the outset here that as obviously the Ukrainian objective was this or that, but they have actually changed what they have said several times. And I wonder if you can kind of read the tea leaves here and tell me what you think they were really after, because Zelensky at first just said, well, this is to cause pain to Russia like they caused pain to us. And then he said, well, actually, no, this is to get it a better condition for a negotiated settlement. And now he says that, no, this is actually a buffer area, to saying the same thing that Russia said when they went in north of Kharkiv. And then now some other people are saying, no, we're actually going to try and take this, the nuclear power plant or something to get more leverage. But I mean, when you look at this, the country of Russia, and you're talking even if the number was 20,000 total Ukrainian troops, obviously you can't invade a country and then keep the lines of communication open, keep the flanks secured. I mean, you just can't do that with those few troops. So the question is, what was really their objective?
Well, I still think the objective was to get to the Kursk nuclear power plant, Dan. I think that was really the goal. Of course, there was very little chance of achieving that, though they did pick an area where they knew there was almost no one present to resist them. And they hoped that they could exploit this. I think that's true. Now, that's failed miserably. The notion that they're going to hold on to anything is absurd. This is a vast tract of dense forest, very few inhabitants. The Russians are going to clean them out. That is, assuming that any of them live through what's about to happen to the rest of them. This is over, and this has harmed Ukraine badly. It's harmed its military capability, it's harmed its position in the world, and it's harmed us. But sadly, I think this was an idea cooked up at NATO. And it seems as though the British had a big hand in this, as did the Americans. And again, we know that it was NATO that kept pushing, primarily British and Americans, to continually attack Russian defenses, which made no sense. This made no sense. This was worse than a gamble. This is just a wasteful exercise in disposing of whatever good troops you had left. And remember, we're hearing reports that perhaps as many as 2,000 of these troops may have been British and Americans in Ukrainian uniform, operating either as mercenaries or whatever. You know, they talk about sheep dipping people and moving them between the CIA and the U.S. Armed Forces. Maybe this is another move to move them from the U.S. Armed Forces directly into the Ukrainian force. And we also know there were numbers of Polish troops, although I'm surprised, given the heavy losses that the Poles have taken, that they would go back in again for another serious beating. So this is a catastrophe. This is not good. And anyone who believes anything that Zelensky says needs to see a psychiatrist. There is no truth in anything this man says, or for that matter, has ever said.
Well, and that's I guess brings us to another point here directly related to that, because what he has said publicly was that this was all our idea. We didn't coordinate with anybody else. In fact, we kept them in the dark. Americans are mad, but it's just something that we had to do. But someone else doesn't believe that, and it's the Russian foreign minister when he said this.
Всем прекрасно понятно, что никогда Зеленский не решился бы на это, а это, безусловно, Зеленского решение, как он сейчас хвалится, что создает буферную зону, наносит ущерб российскому государству. Никогда бы он на это не решился, если бы ему не поручили Соединенные Штаты Америки. Так же, как Соединенные Штаты Америки, теперь уже ни у кого сомнений нет, стоят за взрывами северных потоков, которые взрывы оставили Европу без дешевого российского топлива и, соответственно, без устойчивой основы экономического развития.
Okay, so here's the question. If Russia does believe that, and at this point, it almost doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It only matters what they believe. And certainly there's a lot of plausibility behind it. But what is going to be the consequence in any actions that Russia may take? Because if they believe that the U.S. was behind this, not just using American weapons into Russian territory, but now actually promoting an armed incursion into the country, what might they do in response to it in terms of the United States?
Well, whenever we ask that question, we tend to move or migrate in the direction of what I would call dumb answers. Someone will stand up and say, well, they're obviously going to escalate to the nuclear level. No, that's ridiculous. They have no interest in doing that. They, under no circumstances, want to challenge us or confront us on the nuclear level. Absolutely not. They're also not necessarily interested in attacking NATO bases in Eastern Europe. They just don't want to widen the war. But there are things that they can do that we refer to as horizontal escalation. They have ties and sources of interest all over Europe, as well as in the Middle East and Asia. They can cause us misery and harm economically, even militarily, in ways that we don't have the preparation to deal with it. We recently had an example of this in Bulgaria. A substantial logistical strong point or concentration point for U.S. and NATO forces was attacked and destroyed. A lot of materiel was lost. And people said, well, these were discontented Bulgarians. Well, that may have been true, but let's not be foolish. That is something that could be executed all across Central East Europe, from the Black Sea all the way to the Baltic Sea. In other words, they have the ability to attack, destroy, not just in cyberspace, but physically, things that are of real importance to us in terms of sustaining our military presence and our influence. So, we've talked about, Russia's control and influence over North Korea. Russia can pull a string, hit a button, and suddenly North Korea begins to rattle sabers threatens to use a nuclear weapon, all the usual sort of thing. They can do things in Central Asia that we haven't even begun to think about. So the point is, they will act against us. We will be harmed in many ways, but there will be no direct military confrontation, which I think is what the fools in Washington look for. They're not interested in it. We shouldn't be interested in it.
Yeah, we definitely shouldn't be interested in it. And I wonder if, see, I fear that a lot of these people in the United States, in the so-called elite, and I hate to even say it out loud, but like Lindsey Graham, and he only because he's on TV all the time, not that he has any intellectual more compass and capabilities, but he was gleeful in talking about this thing and said, yeah, let's go kick Putin's ass and all this kind of stuff. I don't think he's aware of that, because when he doesn't see Putin do that, when he doesn't see him take kinetic action, then he thinks that there is no reaction, even though you had earlier today, Vladimir Putin said this.
Что касается вот тех противников и врагов наших, которых я вспоминал, то они продолжают эту работу с попыткой раскачать нашу страну. Это очевидно. И так как мы боролись с террористами, нам сегодня приходится бороться с теми, кто творит преступления в Курской области, в Донбассе, в Новороссии. Но так же, как в борьбе с терроризмом мы добились своих целей, мы добьемся этих целей и на этом направлении, в борьбе с неонацизмом. И, безусловно, покараем преступников. В этом.
Now, he was talking to a group of family members from the Beslan terrorist attack from, I think, 20 years ago or 15 years ago. I can't remember when it was, but it was a horrible situation where a lot of school children were killed in a terrorist attack. And he was saying, just like we dealt with that back then, we're going to deal with it now. And he's talking about this incursion into his country like it's a terrorist attack similar to that. And when you hear that, when you see like Lindsey Graham, these kind of people talking when they don't see Putin launch into an attack that they think he's not going to, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think he's being very straightforward from his vantage point. This was never a serious military operation because it had zero chance of being successful. So from his vantage point, it really is a terrorist attack. They moved into the territory. They terrorized the people that they encountered. They inflicted whatever modest damage that they could. And then they planned to withdraw because they could never reach their objective, whatever their original purpose was, which I still think was the nuclear power plant. So he's saying we'll treat it as a terrorist attack. And I would expect that lots of people in Ukraine who have connections to this, and probably some NATO officers and personnel on the ground in Ukraine that had something to do with this, will end up dead as a result.
They got hit.
And we'll see the Russians over time exact a price. But as I say, it will not be what we anticipate or expect.
And in terms of the cost to the Ukraine side to achieve these objectives, I agree that getting to the nuclear power plant was a bridge too far, to use some old military jargon. So it seems absurd to me that anyone would have given this any possibility of a military success, even a tactical, much less an operational success. But I think that there's an even bigger immediate cost. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. And that is in the East, because in just the last 36 hours or so, Russia has made some pretty significant advances in the Pokrovsk area, the Toretsk, and even in the Kupiansk this morning. And it seems to me that those, whatever the number was, 15, 20,000 that were used up there and all this new equipment could have been a lot more effective in the East, but now they don't have it.
Well, perhaps, but I don't think there's a great deal that Ukraine can do now. Russia essentially has a free hand. It can move and strike wherever it wants to go. The question now on the desk for President Putin is how much longer do we wait before we move forward and effectively snuff out, exterminate this regime in Kiev? Because from their vantage point, this is a terrorist regime. We've set them up. Their sole purpose from the very beginning, at least in Washington, was to inflict harm on Russia. In other words, to harm and terrorize Russia and its people. Insane as that sounds to most Americans, because I don't think most Americans paid much attention from the beginning, and we're all too ready to believe bad things about Russians based on decades of Cold War experience. Sadly, they didn't pay much attention. Well, they better pay attention now. This is a very serious matter, and we are truly overstretched. We have about a third of the United States Navy sitting in the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, and the Indian Ocean. We have tens of thousands of servicemen, Army, Marine, Air Force, all over the region. This is a very dangerous situation, because why would you, if you had any influence right now, as Mr. Putin obviously does, why would you exercise restraint towards them? When have we given him an incentive to either believe anything we say, or more important, to refrain from damaging us? I think we're very fortunate to this point that worse things have not happened to us, including here in the Western Hemisphere.
And I want to slightly shift gears so that to look at the U.S. aspect of this, because it's in many ways, this is the even more alarming in terms of who's in charge and who wants to be in charge in the next election. Gary, I'm going to change up the order here a little bit. If you could go with that in a second here, the second Biden clip that I talked about with 10 days before Kissinger passed, when he called him. Doug, what you're going to hear is this is a campaign speech. It was at the Democratic convention in Chicago last night by Biden. He's trying to rally the Democratic faithful, et cetera. But he's talking about some things here, which I think is fairly true about what he believes and what he thinks. Now, I want you to listen to this comment that he made here about Napoleon, because I'm not sure that it plays out the way that he's thinking. Watch this.
10 days before he died, Henry Kissinger called and said, not since Napoleon has Europe not looked over their shoulder at Russia with dread until now. Well, guess what? Putin thought he'd take Kyiv in 3 days. 3 years later, Ukraine is still free.
Okay, first of all, Biden says that all the time about the Putin thought in 3 days, but it was actually Biden's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, who said that that Ukraine would fall in 3 days if they invaded, which even at the time was a strange thing to say, given the number of forces that were available to Ukraine, to Russia. I don't think that was ever their intention, was to militarily take Kiev. Maybe scare them, but certainly not to take them. But so that's his justification on the one hand. But I think citing Napoleon as the last time Russia was or Europe wasn't worried, but they should have been, because Napoleon failed and lost in Russia. So I'm really not sure where he was going with that. But that's the mentality of the current administration, and that worries me.
Well, their grasp of history, what did or did not happen and how things turned out, is very poor. Again, as we've discussed in the past, before we did any of these things, no one did a serious strategic analysis of Russian capabilities, Russian strength, Russian potential. We focused on what we thought was true. The old idea of a gas station with nuclear weapons. That's utter nonsense. So I think he's echoing these sentiments. But let's be fair to Biden. I don't think he ever thought seriously about any of it. I think he simply said or done whatever he was told to say or do. I think he signed whatever was put in front of him. And then let's stop for a second and go back to the 20th of July. This General Cavoli, I think is his name, the Supreme Commander of Europe, made some really absurd comments talking about Ukraine has a really good strategic plan to win this war. This is on 20 July.
Yeah.
What planet are these people on? And
Right,
somebody said to me, is this man delusional or is he stupid? I said, no, he's not stupid. He's an intelligent man. I don't think he's delusional. He's lying. And that's the problem now. We have lied. I say we, I'm talking about the United States government. It's allied governments in Europe with the support, the collusion, the willing co-conspiracy of the mainstream media. They have lied repeatedly about everything. They're lying now about the Middle East. They're lying about what's happening in Eastern Europe. It's very dangerous because the truth will out, and it's beginning to come out. It's beginning to seep out, which is why you see demonstrations all over Germany, not just in Berlin, but in all the major cities against this war. There are good reasons for that. People have begun to find out what's happening. And of course, their lives have been destroyed. Their economy is ruined, all because we dragged them into this confrontation, which was never required.
You know, there's, I get your point there about the stupid delusion or lies, but I'll tell you one that probably falls into the delusion category, which in some ways is worse than the lies, because if he believes what I'm about to show you here, and I think that he does, because he said a lot of this stuff a lot, this leads to lots of opportunity for strategic miscalculation with potentially catastrophic results. This is, again, Biden from last night talking about how he sees America in the world.
Name me a country in the world that doesn't think we're the leading nation in the world. Without America, not a joke, think about it. I'm being literal. Who could lead the world other than the United States of America?
Delusional.
Well, guess what?
Not no leader of the
America's
world.
winning, and the world's better off for it.
Wow. America is winning. We're running the world, and the world is better off because of it. I mean, none of those things are accurate. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Everywhere you want to look in Europe, in the Middle East, in the Indo-Pacific, I mean, our positions are worsening by the day, and yet he thinks we're the most powerful country, and the world is following in our footsteps. That is dangerous.
In his defense, he is not the Lone Ranger. He has a lot of company inside the Beltway. The country he describes doesn't exist anymore. That was the country you and I knew in 1990 and 91.
Yep.
The country today is very different, and Americans don't have any control over their government. They're bystanders. They're watching other people make policy decisions. In some cases, life or death decisions in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, as well as here at home with the border, and they're never consulted. They're never asked anything. They're just told to shut up and color. And unfortunately, because things here have been good, we've had a high standard of living, we live well, Americans have tended to be complacent. Well, those days are over. Our standard of living is falling. It could fall very precipitously, depending what happens in the financial markets. And again, when you walk around and you talk to people, some of whom consider themselves to be experts, you still hear people say, there's nothing wrong. We can always print more money. And as long as we can print more money, we can carry this debt in perpetuity. We've got nuclear weapons. No one is going to challenge us. The possibility that we have a nuclear stalemate where any use of a nuclear weapon will result in what we all know is mutual assured destruction. Suddenly, nuclear weapons are not useful. They're not usable. And if they are used, the world will draw back from whomever has initiated a nuclear strike, and that particular country will be a pariah and probably will end up being destroyed. So no, he could not be more remote from reality. But again, inside the Beltway, you would think it is still 1990, and you have the same cheering sections. The people, I call them the Bombs Away Club, who think that every time we bomb someone somewhere, our greatness is demonstrated. Well, that's not true. The world is really sick of us. That's why you have BRICS. That's why you have 84 countries standing around ready to join BRICS. That's why Saudi Arabia has buried the hatchet with Iran and vice versa. It's why they're trying to build an alternative to the Suez Canal that runs from the Indian Ocean in Iran all the way up through the Caucasus, through Azerbaijan, into Russia, and then ultimately Europe. People don't want to be bothered with us. We are more trouble than we are worth. We have caused them unnecessary misery and harm. So we don't enjoy the position he described anymore. We need to come to terms with that. But to do that, we have to change our behavior. And right now, no one in Washington is willing to do that.
Right. Yeah, that's unfortunate and that's one of the reasons we are doing shows like this. I know you're on a lot of different networks and channels doing the same kind of thing. So at least people can at least be aware of the risk and the things that are going on so that maybe we can get more people waking up. In the last minutes that we have here, I want to shift directions a little bit from the Russia-Ukraine war back to the Middle East, because as you just pointed out, there are some major problems going on with that too. And one last section from this speech last night, and it's I'm going to stop it a couple of times here to get some specific comments from you. But this is what Biden said about Israel and how it was being directly attacked by Iran. Watch this.
And we'll keep working to bring hostages home and end the war in Gaza and bring peace and security to the Middle East. As you know, I wrote a peace treaty for Gaza. A few days ago, I put forward a proposal that brought us closer to doing that than we've done since October 7th. We're working around the clock, my Secretary of State, to prevent a wider war and reunite hostages with their families and surge humanitarian health and food assistance into Gaza now.
Okay, go ahead and pause there, Gary. So he's talking about here that Israel was attacked by Iran, and we're going to help them like we have helped them in the past. Meaning, I think back in June, April or May, I can't remember which month it was when Israel attacked. But what he doesn't mention there is why Iran attacked Israel, and that is the crucial part. Because when he characterizes this, and certainly all the people in that audience were overwhelmingly applauding, it makes it sound like Israel's just sitting around there doing nothing, and all of a sudden, here comes these darn old mean Iranians attacking them. But we're supporting Israel as they're violating international rules left and right, like when they destroyed an embassy compound in Syria, the Iranian embassy compound, and then when they assassinated the chief negotiator for the Hamas side that we claimed we're trying to get to a negotiated settlement to match our policies in Tehran, in their capital city, during a presidential inauguration. And I just ask you, I mean, just first of all, if anyone was assassinated during a presidential inauguration in America and some other country took them out in Washington, D.C., do you think that we would say, well, I mean, that was an issue between y'all, so we get that? Or would we do something more?
Dan, I don't know these days. I mean, America has changed. Its government has changed. I really don't know. What I do know is that you're correct. This business of blaming Iran, or for that matter, anybody else in the Middle East for everything that's wrong, is not only misguided, it's stupid, and it's bad policy. But we've adopted that. The Israelis have insisted upon it. And the truth of the matter is that Mr. Netanyahu, not Mr. Biden or his administration, is in charge of what's happening in the Middle East. When I say in the Middle East, I mean he controls what we will or will not do militarily. We don't. He's got control of the Congress, and we are going to unconditionally support him until somehow or another it harms us. And when it harms us in a demonstrable way, not a way in which it can be concealed, the way in which you have been describing the deterioration of America's position in the world, that's when we'll see change. But right now, everyone is obedient to the orders of President Netanyahu. And the Iranians have held back for many reasons. One, of course, is that I don't think they're satisfied that they're completely ready to deal with Israel. They've got a lot of new equipment, technology, and capabilities that the Russians have provided to them. They want to make sure that they are in good shape. They also were asked explicitly to exercise restraint and wait, and hopefully there would be some sort of settlement in Gaza, because the Iranians have said from the beginning, if the war in Gaza ends and the massive expulsion and killing of millions of people ends, then that'll be the end of it for us. In fact, everyone in the Middle East has made that point. That's why I think that Mr. Netanyahu is in charge, because he has no interest in ending that at all. He wants to wage a war on multiple fronts. He wants to settle all his disputes with all of his neighbors in the region.
And that may be his interest. It's not the interest, I don't believe, of Israel, because it can't be accomplished, but that may be his. It's definitely not in ours. And in that clip there, Gary, if you can pull that back up there, here's the last part of what he said also.
And end the war in Gaza and bring peace and security to the Middle East. As you know, I wrote a peace treaty now to end the civilian suffering of the Palestinian people and finally deliver a ceasefire and end this war.
See, that's enough. That's enough there, Gary. I think that people think that Biden is doing everything he can to bring the war to an end, and only these darn Iranians and Hamas and Hezbollah people are the only roadblocks to it. But as you just pointed out there, Doug, it's actually Netanyahu who is blocking and subverting every possibility. Even when we get close to making something happen, he seems to undercut it and then ask us for more bombs in the process, and we deliver them. And it's just painful to watch, even though you laid out the reasons why that is.
Well, for him, remember, this is a once in a century opportunity in his mind, to eliminate everyone in the region who refuses to bend the knee to Israel. That's effectively what it comes down to. And to establish the supremacy of his state in the region without any condition. So that's part of the problem. There's another issue here, though, that I think is very important, and we need to understand this. Biden doesn't know what he's talking about. I just don't think he does. I'm not saying he's lying. I just think this is someone who has no business being president. He's not mentally competent. We'll see what happens next. But I think at this point, listening to anything he says and taking it seriously is a real mistake.
And let me ask you this on a practical. Just take the emotions, even take the morality out of it for the moment. Is there any possibility that Netanyahu could accomplish what he wants, i.e. to get rid of the Palestinian problem, to get rid of the Hezbollah problem, and to get rid of the Iranian problem? Is there any possibility that he could actually accomplish that so that there is some big Israeli state from the river to the sea that doesn't include any Arabs and is secure?
I think if it were ever possible, it is now impossible, because they have successfully alienated everyone in the Islamic world. And the Islamic world now has allies in the form of Russia and China, perhaps India and others, who are not going to stand for that. I think we have to go back to what one of General Sisi's staff officers said after a visit from Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State. He said, "We have all grown tired of listening to Mr. Blinken repeat Mr. Netanyahu's talking points." If that doesn't tell you who is in charge and what's really happening, then you're daft.
Yeah.
That's a polite word for dumb.
Right. And the last section here, Gary, if you can bring up the first Blinken, the first Biden shot we didn't use a while ago. I want to circle back to that one because this one is more of a domestic issue here. One last thing from last night's speech that Biden said that I think is important to highlight here, and I know it's something that our country, our choice, deals with a lot in terms of talks about pro-American things and what our country is supposed to be. He was talking in here about the one sacred obligation that the government has. There's many obligations, but one sacred. Now, I would have assumed that he was going to say it's to keep our country safe. That was one of the primary things, but instead he said something a little different. Let's see what you think about this.
I've long said we have many obligations as a nation, but I got in trouble years ago for saying I'd make no apologies. We have only one truly sacred obligation: to prepare and equip those we send to war and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't.
It's like that diplomacy doesn't exist. Talking doesn't exist. Trying to coexist with people to keep us safe and to keep our economy going. Those things aren't even on his list. It's all about war, making war and having the capacity to war, and then it always threatening its use. He seems to consider that is the sacred obligation. What do you think should be the sacred obligation for the president?
Well, Dan, from the very beginning, he seemed to be channeling FDR and World War II rhetoric, evoking images of the Second World War. This happened early on. We heard this in his speeches in Warsaw when he visited Poland not long after the Ukrainian war got started. He's been repeating this sort of nonsense again and again and again. Perhaps he, in his mind, sees himself in those terms. But the truth is that in strategy and in national policy, the number one consideration is the safety, security, and survival of your country. You don't do anything or undertake any operation that puts that nation, its people, at risk. And you and I both know that we are now very much at risk because of the alignment of all these great nuclear armed powers against us, and the very real probability that NATO will crumble in front of us sooner rather than later as governments in Europe walk away from us. And they will be the first, but they won't be the last to walk away from us.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be. It's just really, really disappointing when I keep hearing that over and over. And obviously, it's not just President Biden. I mean, almost all the so-called elite, Lindsey Graham, Jack Keane, so many of these others, that's all they live for, oblivious to the fact that that is actually driving us into the cliff economically, as well as setting us up to have all kinds of trouble in the future and potential risk, as you keep pointing out there. So, and I wonder if you can tell us anything going on at Our Country, Our Choice these days. I know you're always looking out for us and for our people.
Well, as you
what's
and I have
happening?
talked before, I think we've got a number of things going very strong right now. And as far as inside Our Country, Our Choice, I think the program that is roaring ahead at light speed is Our Country, Our Children. And this is headed up by Dr. Juliet Engel, and she has really put together a tremendous team. They are collecting as much data and information as they possibly can with the goal of providing it to law enforcement. Of course, we have no illusions about law enforcement. Most of them are very good people, but there are numbers out there who are compromised, especially when you talk about child trafficking. In fact, we now know with absolute certainty that at least 150,000 children disappeared last year in the United States. We think the number is probably closer to 500,000, but we don't know because we have no control over the border. We have no control over the millions of people who come in here and what happens to the children they drag along. So the child molestation, child abuse, child prostitution, child exploitation right now is at an all-time high. It's also at an all-time high in Ukraine. Surprise, surprise, where all semblance of order has fallen apart and the population there lives in fear of its own government. They can't go to church. They can't do anything without the government's sanction. And the government secret police, the Ukrainian secret police, bullies everybody and frightens everybody into submission. This is not going to last, but these are conditions that are very real. I think that's one thing. The other thing, of course, is this new platform that One Truth Media, which actually owns it's called Republic. We at Our Country, Our Choice really want to use this platform. This thing is designed to be a free speech platform that cannot be canceled. Now, we know that if this is as successful as we think it will be, where you can go on, you can read a lot of material, news, views, opinions without interruption. We also have a fee. If you want to go on that platform, you pay $180 or with a discount, $120 for a whole year. And you have all sorts of tools at your disposal that allow you to contact congressmen, senators, state, local officials, sheriffs, anyone you want to express your views. You can organize there, self-organize. You can talk to people across the country and they can talk to you. And this is not going to be canceled. It's not going to be stopped. And we are trying to organize an army of legal experts to protect us when this thing comes out. But Our Country, Our Choice very much wants to use this. And I think this Republic platform from One Truth Media is going to be a big hit with the American public. The other day, someone who was looking through all the capabilities and checking them on the net said, you know, this is like the committees of correspondence during the Revolutionary War. All of the revolutionary congresses or parliamentary bodies had committees, and these committees contacted each other, kept each other informed, and were part of the lifeblood that kept the American Revolution going through really, really hard times. I like to think that's what the Republic is going to do for the American people. By the way, also a lot of people in places like Sweden, and Germany, and France, and Austria, and Switzerland. Now we're getting inquiries from Brazil that want to get on this thing, that want to have their version of it. we can handle 200 million people on this, and we have the private servers to support and host it.
Wow.
But I think this is going to go viral, and I think in a very good way.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope so. We'll do everything we can to help promote that. Anything that's going to give power to the people, we love it on this channel. We're going to continue to promote that.
Right.
Thanks so much for coming on today, Doug, and giving us, your views on the no kidding stuff that's going on in these two situations. And
Palestine going to join BRICS? Well, as Russia is the chairman of this year's BRICS, Putin has invited Palestine to attend the 2024 BRICS summit. Until now, no country has been able to entirely side with Palestine in the ongoing war in Gaza. It's true that countries have been assisting for a truce, but that's all. It's because no country or alliance wants to help Palestine and risk losing Israel, and with it, the United States and its allies. How Putin, Xi Jinping, and BRICS have different plans. The invitation has been confirmed, and Palestine will be attending the summit. But will Palestine be encouraged to join BRICS and powerful countries on its side? What are Putin and BRICS thinking about doing? In this video, let's find out. So, what has happened? The BRICS 2024 summit is scheduled to take place in Russia's Kazan region from October 22 to 24. This 16th summit will be the first for the expanded 9-member alliance, where discussions will focus on critical topics such as the economy, trade, and currencies. However, the most important area will be BRICS' plans to enter the geopolitical world and expand its influence. For this purpose, Palestine has been formally invited to the summit. Not only that, but Russia is actively working to secure the nation's participation and memberships. Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas emphasized the deep, long-standing strategic relationship between Palestine and Russia, saying, "We have certainly discussed bilateral relations because we enjoy a very long-standing strategic relationship with Russia." During an official visit to Moscow from August 12 to 14, President Abbas met with President Putin to discuss various matters, including the situation in Gaza and the bilateral relations between Palestine and Russia. Perhaps it's where Putin and Abbas agreed that Palestine should attend the BRICS summit. After the meeting, Abbas shared his insights, saying, "We have discussed our vision of possible developments in the near future and what it can produce during these complicated times." The two leaders also explored opportunities within the BRICS Cooperation Forum. Interestingly, Russia plans to complete all the goals it had been thinking about because now it has the chairmanship. In 2024, Russia will host a total of over 250 events, with the Kazan summit in October being the most important one. In their discussions, Abbas and Putin reached a verbal agreement that Palestine would be invited to the forum in an outreach format. Palestinian leaders indicated that there will be specific gatherings dedicated solely to Palestine, providing member countries with the opportunity to share their views on developments in the region. Abbas said that everything would be as complete as possible, given the fact that these association member countries are all friendly with Palestine. So, can Palestine join BRICS? Well, Palestine might soon become a part of the BRICS alliance based on recent developments. For the first time, Palestine could have a seat at the table with the global powerhouses that are part of the BRICS. Therefore, for Palestine, joining BRICS isn't just about being on good terms with Russia. The alliance gives Palestine a voice and power to do what it wants. BRICS has generally supported Palestine's efforts towards statehood, particularly in recent summits. However, it's important to remember that Israel has strong connections with some BRICS members, especially China and India. For Palestine to join, it will require careful and strategic diplomacy. Palestine needs to engage more with all BRICS countries while ensuring that these efforts don't harm their ties with Israel. This diplomatic balancing act involves persuading BRICS members to take a firm stand on Palestinian rights on the global stage, a task that's easier said than done. But that's not the only factor you should have an eye on. Palestine's internal politics could also pose a significant hurdle. The Palestinian Authority is currently grappling with issues like divided leadership and a crisis of legitimacy. To successfully join BRICS, Palestine needs to present a united front that can effectively represent the entire nation. A unified leadership would greatly enhance Palestine's credibility and negotiating power internationally. However, the ongoing rift between the PA and Hamas complicates this goal. Additionally, Palestine must demonstrate that it has a stable governance structure capable of managing international relationships and economic partnerships. It's because BRICS members are unlikely to support a country that struggles with internal stability. However, one thing should be noted. BRICS won't demand all things from Palestine as it demands from other potential members. That's because BRICS knows the conditions Palestine and its people are in. Therefore, accepting Palestine in BRICS won't be judged with skeptical minds, but with open arms. That's because the foreign ministers of BRICS countries have issued a joint statement supporting full membership of Palestine. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. But is BRICS the alliance Palestine needs? Well, put simply, BRICS brings more benefits to Palestine than what Palestine brings to BRICS, and that's understandable. BRICS is not planning to give all new memberships to only the power countries. Rather, it plans to help some rise on the international level and be aligned with an alliance, rather than being totally alone politically. BRICS could play a crucial role in bringing Palestinian statehood back to the forefront of international discussions, especially after years of stagnation caused by the US and Israel prioritizing the normalization of relations between Israel and Arab states over the peace process. Not only that, but all resolutions in favor of Palestine were vetoed. But now, if Palestine joins BRICS, it can get access to the Security Council through Russia and China, who have veto power. BRICS has long supported Palestine, but the current context gives that support new importance. The Johannesburg summit concluded with a declaration calling for direct negotiations between Israel and Palestine based on international law and the Arab Peace Initiative to establish a sovereign and independent Palestinian state. This aligns with the Palestinian-Chinese Strategic Partnership signed in June. Just before the summit, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa reaffirmed his country's support for Palestinian liberation. The Palestinian leadership welcomed BRICS's call for direct negotiations with Israel, notably without U.S. involvement. This sends a clear message to the U.S. The era of American unilateralism is ending. In a move that reflects a renewed focus on the Arab Peace Initiative and BRICS's approach, Saudi Arabia appointed its first ever non-resident ambassador to Palestine and consul general in Jerusalem without consulting Israel. Not only that, but BRICS countries are subtly distancing themselves from the US-driven Abraham Accords approach to Palestine. This doesn't mean they oppose the accords, but they believe that failing to address the Palestinian issue could doom the two-state solution. Palestine's closer ties with BRICS come amid a deepening crisis within the Palestinian Authority. The decision to drop the U.S. as a mediator highlights deteriorating relations with Washington and Israel. It also reflects the Palestinian leadership's belief that the U.S. and Israel's governments aim to weaken or dismantle the PA and abandon the peace process in favor of annexing the occupied West Bank. In recent years, the U.S. has significantly cut aid to the PA, while Israel has continued to withhold tax revenues and impose other sanctions that have crippled the PA's ability to manage its budget, leading to delays in salary payments for public servants and reduced public services. This has eroded public support for the PA and increased dissatisfaction with the current situation. This situation has led to clashes between the young fighters and the PA, which, under the Oslo Accords, is tasked with conducting extensive security coordination with Israel, including preventing armed attacks. These challenges are pushing the PA to look to BRICS as a platform for negotiations that could help restore both its lost domestic support and international power. Palestine is also hoping to leverage the growing influence of Russia and China in the region to initiate a new, non-aligned peace process, capitalizing on the intensifying competition between great powers. And for BRICS, reaching a solution for Palestine can be the turning point where the alliance becomes a political bloc, in addition to being an economic one. But what is Palestine thinking? Well, it desperately wants to join BRICS, which is a powerful bloc and can impact the West's economies. Therefore, Palestine has already applied to join BRICS. Even though other members were formally added to the BRICS, the decision about Palestine was left for more discussion. But now, as Russia is the chairman of the BRICS, it has decided to bring up the issue. There are chances that at the summit, the decision to add Palestine will be formally made, and after that, Palestine will be announced as a full member. Therefore, this summit can be a turning point for Palestine. What do you think? Will Palestine join BRICS and get muscles against Israel? Do you think Putin wants to go offensive and help Palestine as he has BRICS chairmanship? In the comment section right below, share your thoughts on what if Palestine joins BRICS. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes,
Can be no innovation. Without ambition, there can be no grand vision. Without ambition, there can be no struggle. And without ambition, there can be no victory.
Tens of thousands of satellites and spacecraft are now orbiting some 400 kilometers above Earth's surface.
In the vastness of space, an ambitious new player is quietly but powerfully shaping the future. Unseen by many, yet impossible to ignore, China is creating an amazing web of satellites and missions that stretch beyond our immediate comprehension. From operating a space station, commanding mega constellations, to retrieving samples from the dark side of lunar surface, China keeps doing the impossible, and it's a sight to behold. Today's episode will offer a glimpse into China's rapidly expanding space capabilities and how much of a strategic advantage the nation commands. China has long been recognized as a rising global power, and its advancements in space capabilities only complement this reality. Recently, the country took a significant leap forward by launching its first batch of 18 satellites, marking the beginning of its challenge to the US firm SpaceX's Starlink mega constellation. This launch is a part of China's ambitious space sail project, which is ready to revolutionize internet connectivity through a vast network of satellites. The first phase of this project aims to have 648 satellites in orbit by 2025, providing regional internet coverage. By 2027, an additional 648 satellites will be launched to extend this coverage globally. And by 2030, a staggering 15,000 satellites will be operational, offering mobile-directed multi-service integration. The Space Sail project is just one of 3 major satellite constellations China has in the pipeline. The other 2 include the GW constellation, with plans to launch 13,000 satellites, and the Honghu 3 constellation, which aspires to deploy 10,000 satellites within the next decade. This aggressive push into the satellite internet industry is not just about technological advancement. It's a strategic move to position China as a leader in the low Earth orbit LEO satellite industry by 2030. In a rapidly evolving global landscape where being first often equates to being the most influential, China's leadership in LEO-based satellite constellations could reshape the future of global communications. The proximity of these LEO satellites to Earth offers several advantages, including low latency and easier launch capabilities, thanks to China's Long March 6E rockets. Satellite internet has been identified as a crucial component of China's new infrastructure, as outlined in a 2020 concept by the National Development and Reform Commission. This initiative also features prominently in China's 14th five-year plan from 2021-2025, emphasizing the integrated development of geosynchronous Earth orbit, GEO, middle Earth orbit, MEO, and LEO satellites. This coordinated approach is expected to provide China with a sustained edge in its rapidly growing commercial space industry. China's achievements in space extend beyond satellite internet. This year, the country's lunar missions have also seen significant successes. In June 2024, the Chang'e 6 mission successfully landed in the southern part of the Apollo crater on the Moon's south pole and returned with valuable samples. This mission has been hailed as a game changer, and for a good reason. The analysis of samples from the 2020 Chang'e 5 mission, which were collected from a previously unexplored region of the Moon, confirmed the presence of water molecules. This discovery is particularly significant as it supports China's ambitions to establish an International Lunar Research Station, ILRS, on the Moon by 2036, a project that would require the presence of water for long-term sustainability. China's future lunar missions are equally ambitious. In 2026, the Chang'e 7 mission is set to survey the lunar regolith, focusing on mapping lunar water presence and developing a deeper understanding of the Moon's terrain. This mission will involve collaboration with several international partners, including Russia, Egypt, Thailand, Switzerland, and the International Observatory Association, who will contribute to the development of scientific instruments for the mission. The ILRS project itself has already garnered the support of 12 nations, including Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Nicaragua, Pakistan, Russia, Serbia, South Africa, Thailand, and Venezuela. However, the framework for collaboration within the ILRS remains somewhat vague, with no clear principles outlining how these nations will work together or what their contributions will be. This lack of a regulatory framework stands in contrast to NASA's Artemis Accords, which currently has 43 member nations and provides a more structured approach to international cooperation in space exploration. Despite the success of the Artemis Accords, the US space program has faced several setbacks in recent years. For instance, NASA recently canceled its Viper lunar mission, which aimed to search for ice and other resources on the Moon, due to development delays and cost overruns. The cancellation of the OSAM-1 mission, which was focused on on-orbit servicing, assembly, and manufacturing, further shows the challenges faced by the US space program. These setbacks highlight the growing contrast between the US and China in terms of space capabilities. While the US is grappling with technical and financial challenges, China is steadily advancing its space program, particularly in areas like on-orbit servicing, assembly, and manufacturing, OSAM. Since 2018, the Chinese military has been developing OSAM capabilities through computer simulations, and the Ministry of Science and Technology has identified OSAM as a strategic technology. China's integration of AI with its space capabilities is a critical component of its strategy. In 2022, China-based analysts published a paper claiming that by combining AI with commercial Earth observation satellite images from the Jilin-1 satellite, they achieved a 95% target recognition efficiency for moving car-sized objects. With plans to launch 138 Jilin-1 satellites by 2025, China is aiming to significantly enhance its remote sensing capabilities. In July 2024, a study led by Hong Jun at the Dalian Naval Academy further demonstrated China's advancements in AI, developing an algorithm capable of identifying US warships based on satellite imagery. This capability could prove crucial in potential conflict scenarios, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, where tensions between China and the US continue to escalate. China's steady development of its space capabilities has far-reaching strategic consequences, not only for the United States, but also for its allies. The integration of civilian, military, and commercial space assets has allowed China to build a comprehensive space program that offers significant strategic advantages. In the Asia-Pacific region, where the US has long been committed to maintaining international order, China's advancements in space could shift the balance of power. What does this mean for the future of race to space? As China continues to expand its space capabilities, it is clear that the country is positioning itself as a key player in shaping the future international order. The question now is whether the US and its allies can keep pace with China's rapid advancements, or if they will find themselves playing catch-up in the years to come. Whatever happens, odds remain in China's favor. With much about China's rapidly expanding space capabilities and how much of a strategic advantage the nation commands covered, it is time to wrap this one up. If you have any
Russia, a nation with a storied history in military innovation and power projection, has once again made headlines with the announcement of a groundbreaking missile defense system. This development, which has sent shockwaves across the globe, marks a significant milestone in the ongoing race for military supremacy. The new missile defense system, hailed as one of the most advanced and deadly in the world, is poised to alter the balance of power and heighten tensions in an already volatile international landscape. In this article, we will explore the technical aspects of this new system, its strategic implications, and the broader geopolitical context that surrounds its unveiling. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. At the heart of Russia's new missile defense system lies a combination of cutting-edge technology and military ingenuity. Dubbed the S-600, this system represents a quantum leap in Russia's defensive capabilities. The S-600 is designed to intercept and destroy incoming ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and even hypersonic weapons, an area where previous defense systems have struggled. One of the most striking features of the S-600 is its speed and precision. Equipped with advanced radar systems, the S-600 can detect and track multiple targets simultaneously, even those traveling at hypersonic speeds. The system's response time is measured in milliseconds, allowing it to engage and neutralize threats with unprecedented accuracy. This level of performance is made possible by a new generation of missile interceptors, which are faster, more agile, and more reliable than any of their predecessors. The S-600's capability to intercept hypersonic missiles is particularly noteworthy. Hypersonic weapons, which travel at speeds greater than Mach 5, have been a growing concern for military planners worldwide. These weapons can evade traditional missile defense systems due to their speed and maneuverability. However, the S-600's advanced radar and targeting systems, combined with its new interceptor missiles, can effectively neutralize this threat, providing Russia with a significant strategic advantage. Moreover, the S-600 is not just a land-based system. Russia has announced that it plans to deploy the S-600 on naval vessels and mobile platforms, making it a versatile tool in Russia's military arsenal. This mobility ensures that the S-600 can be rapidly deployed to any theater of operations, providing Russia with a flexible and responsive defense capability. The unveiling of the S-600 has far-reaching implications for global security. With its ability to intercept a wide range of missile threats, including hypersonic weapons, the S-600 effectively neutralizes a significant portion of the offensive capabilities of other nations. This development shifts the balance of power, particularly in regions where missile technology plays a crucial role in military strategy. For the United States and NATO, the S-600 represents a significant challenge. Both have invested heavily in hypersonic weapons as a means to maintain a strategic advantage over adversaries like Russia and China. The S-600's ability to counter these weapons could undermine this strategy, forcing a reevaluation of current military doctrines and defense investments. The United States, in particular, may need to accelerate its development of next-generation missile defense systems or explore alternative means of ensuring the effectiveness of its hypersonic arsenal. In Asia, the S-600's deployment could exacerbate tensions, especially between Russia and China. While the two countries have been allies in many respects, Their mutual suspicion and competition in the military sphere cannot be ignored. China, which has been rapidly advancing its own hypersonic missile program, may view the S-600 as a threat to its regional ambitions. This could lead to an arms race between the two nations, with each striving to outdo the other in missile and defense technologies. Furthermore, the S-600 could alter the dynamics of conflicts in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, where missile threats are a constant concern. Countries that rely on missile deterrence, such as Iran and North Korea, may find their strategies increasingly untenable in the face of the S-600's capabilities. This could prompt these nations to seek alternative means of deterrence, potentially escalating tensions in these already volatile regions. The announcement of the S-600 comes at a time of heightened geopolitical tension. The global landscape is increasingly characterized by competition between major powers, with Russia, the United States, and China vying for influence and control. In this context, the S-600 is not just a military innovation, but a statement of Russia's intent to assert its position on the world stage. For Russia, the S-600 is a tool of both defense and deterrence. It signals to potential adversaries that any missile attack against Russia will be met with a swift and effective response. This is particularly important for Russia as it seeks to protect its interests in regions like Eastern Europe and the Arctic, where tensions with NATO are on the rise. The S-600 enhances Russia's ability to defend its territory and project power beyond its borders, bolstering its strategic position. However, the introduction of the S-600 is also likely to provoke a strong response from other nations. The United States, already concerned about Russia's growing military capabilities, may view the S-600 as a direct threat to its own security and that of its allies. This could lead to an escalation of the arms race, with both sides investing in more advanced weapons and defense systems. The potential for miscalculation and conflict increases as each side seeks to maintain or gain an advantage. In Europe, the S-600 could exacerbate existing divisions within NATO. Some member states may push for greater investment in missile defense and other military capabilities to counter the Russian threat, while others may advocate for diplomatic engagement to reduce tensions. This could strain the alliance, particularly if there are disagreements over how to respond to the S-600 and the broader challenges posed by Russia. China, too, is likely to react to the S-600 with concern. While Russia and China have cooperated on many fronts, including military technology, the S-600 could be seen as a sign that Russia is not willing to share its most advanced capabilities. This could lead to a cooling of relations between the two nations, particularly if China feels that its own missile programs are being targeted by Russia's new defense system. The global reaction to Russia's announcement of the S-600 has been swift and varied. In the West, the response has been characterized by a mix of alarm and resolve. Military experts and policymakers have expressed concern about the implications of the S-600 for global security, particularly in light of its ability to neutralize hypersonic missiles. There is a growing consensus that the West must respond to this new threat, either through the development of new technologies or by enhancing existing missile defense systems. In the United States, the Pentagon has reportedly initiated a review of its missile defense strategy in light of the S-600. This review is likely to result in increased funding for missile defense programs and accelerated development of new technologies. There is also likely to be greater emphasis on countermeasures such as electronic warfare and cyber capabilities, which could disrupt or disable the S-600's radar and targeting systems. NATO, too, is likely to respond by strengthening its missile defense capabilities. The alliance has already been investing in missile defense systems to protect against threats from Iran and North Korea, but the S-600 represents a new and more sophisticated challenge. NATO may need to expand its missile defense network, particularly in Eastern Europe, where the threat from Russia is most acute. This could involve the deployment of additional missile interceptors, as well as the integration of new technologies to counter hypersonic threats. In Asia, the response to the S-600 has been more muted, but no less significant. China, in particular, is likely to accelerate its own missile and missile defense programs in response to the S-600. This could lead to a new round of military competition between China and Russia, as each seeks to maintain a strategic edge. Other countries in the region, such as Japan and South Korea, may also feel compelled to enhance their missile defense capabilities, particularly in light of North Korea's ongoing missile tests. In the Middle East, the S-600's introduction could have far-reaching consequences. Countries like Iran, which have invested heavily in missile technology as a means of deterrence, may find their strategies increasingly undermined. This could prompt a shift in regional power dynamics, as countries seek new ways to ensure their security in the face of Russia's advanced capabilities. Israel, in particular, may seek to enhance its already formidable missile defense systems to counter any potential threats posed by the S-600. The introduction of the S-600 marks the beginning of a new era in missile defense. As countries around the world grapple with the implications of this new system, it is clear that we are entering a period of heightened competition and innovation in military technology. The S-600 has set a new standard for missile defense, one that other nations will be eager to meet or surpass. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us?
Cool, follow me.